Chapter 2679, 2679 A Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate bleeds. 2679 A Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate bleeds. Ling Han only sent out a shot of the 5 elements lightning technique, but why did his whole arm explode? That was very simple. It was because not only was he channeling the 5 elements lightning technique, he was also using the divine lightning to boost its power. A heavenly venerate technique could not possibly be channeled constantly. A celestial king could not bear so much power. Before he used it to hurt others, he would kill himself first. If it had been a few days ago, Ling Han truly would not have dared to be so reckless, but his indestructible celestial king physique had already reached great accomplishment level. His physique was only slightly inferior to divine metal, yet this gave him the confidence and courage to make this attempt. Though he was just an ordinary man, his fury was still capable of making a heavenly venerate bleed. Die! Ling Han charged over, boldly and grandly forging onwards without reservations. He Yufeng finally showed a hint of seriousness in his expression. He was proud, but he would definitely not be blindly self-conceited. When this blow from Ling Han was delivered, his first reaction was to avoid a head-on confrontation with it. But who was he? He was a dignified pseudo-heavenly venerate, and to actually have to dodge the attack of a 7th heaven, how could he bear it? Furthermore, if he Yufeng avoided this strike, Ling Han would really have finished all 10 moves. A 7th heaven had made an empty threat in front of a pseudo-heavenly venerate, claiming he could withstand 10 moves, but in the end, he truly turned this into reality. Then how would he Yufeng, the pseudo-heavenly venerate, be able to face others in future? He Yufeng could not dodge. He had to take it head-on, and kill Ling Han with his overwhelming strength. He Yufeng humphed coldly, green ribbons of light entwined around his hands, exuding a pressure that far surpassed the celestial king tier. He pressed his hands down on Ling Han. This clash was earth-shattering. Amu, Du Shi, and Can You all paled in shock. They knew themselves well. If it was they that were receiving this strike from either Ling Han or He Yufeng, they would only be severely injured. The only solution would be to dodge the blow. Taking this attack head-on would only be making things difficult for themselves. But He Yufeng being so strong was logical. What was Ling Han's reason for being so awesome, then? It was inconceivable, it was unimaginable, it was unacceptable. Even Lin Piaoxue showed a hint of surprise, nodding internally. Ling Han being able to send out such a blow was really worthy of the grand words that he had previously said. The fury of even an ordinary man could spill blood in all directions. Boom! The attack sent out by the 2 great elites finally crashed into each other, forming a great explosion that surpassed regulations. Lin Piaoxue hurriedly moved, suppressing the multiple resulting shock waves. Otherwise, if these shock waves from the clash were allowed to wreak havoc and cause destruction, who knew how many people would be implicated? The majority of them would definitely be killed. It was a terrifying wave of power. Even if Lin Piaoxue had dispelled the major part of the impact, there were still some small ripples that seeped out, causing quite a few people to cough up blood, and breaking their bones. They were all astounded. If even a tiny shock wave had been so powerful, then just what kind of terrifying impact had the 2 people at the center of the battle sustained? When the dust settled, Ling Han was still standing where he had been, but not only had his entire right arm exploded, leaving behind only white bone, even his whole upper body had lost all flesh and blood, leaving behind only his skeleton. However, he was still standing steadily, his eyes exuding a fighting spirit that was soaring sky-high, as if he was a supreme divine sword that had just been unsheathed. Looking back at He Yufeng, he was still holding the position of laying down his right hand. His situation was much, much better than Ling Han's. His robes were all neat and tidy, and he practically had not sustained any injury at all. Only a small cut had been inflicted on the palm of his right hand, blood dripping slowly from it. Seeing this scene, everyone went numb with shock. He Yufeng had been wounded. He Yufeng had actually been wounded. A pseudo-heavenly venerate, faced with a 7th heaven celestial king, had actually been wounded by his opponent, and was bleeding. Good heavens! Everyone was not concerned that Ling Han's wounds were more serious and what kind of price he had paid. They were only aware that a pseudo-heavenly venerate had been wounded by a seventh heaven celestial king. This was a miracle that had never happened. This was a grand feat that no one had ever dared to imagine was possible. Ling Han was the one who had performed this miracle, and he Yufeng? He was destined to become an eternal afternote that would accompany Ling Han for his whole life. In the future, when anyone spoke of the grand feat that Ling Han had performed today, they would speak of He Yufeng as well, using his humiliation to show off just how freakish Ling Han was. This was Ling Han's fury as an ordinary man. Amazing, his fury was capable of making a pseudo-heavenly venerate bleed. Was there any other seventh heaven that could do the same? Heavenborn? No, he would only be able to ensure that he did not lose, at most. Du Shi, Amu, can you? Perhaps if they presently exploded with ultimate moves, they could exchange it for a drop of blood from a pseudo-heavenly venerate, but when they had been only in the seventh heaven, that would have been merely a delusion. Ling Han smiled evenly, the blood and flesh of his body regrowing at an astonishing speed. The reason why he had come off so badly was actually mostly due to the conflict between the two heavenly venerate techniques inside his body, so this was considered self-inflicted injury. It would recover very quickly. Now, with the circulation of the indestructible heaven scroll, added with how Ling Han also had void particle energy, his recovery was naturally extraordinarily quick. Lord He, thank you for the guidance. He clasped his fists together. Though Ling Han was speaking very politely, He Yufeng felt his face burn. He knew that he was going to become an eternal joke, juxtaposed with Ling Han to show how freakish Ling Han was. He Yufeng's eyes burned with rage, killing intent blazing. He was going to kill Ling Han. He would definitely not allow him to leave this place alive. When others saw Ling Han in the future, they would speak of his great achievement today, and then step harshly on He Yufeng as well. That was definitely not allowed. He Yufeng was a man that was destined to become a heavenly venerate. How could he carry such a stain on his name? Die! He Yufeng roared in fury, green light surging from both his hands, and pressing down on Ling Han. Ling Han was freakish. Not only had he clashed with a pseudo-heavenly venerate for 10 moves, he had even wounded the former, but after 10 moves, he was also at the end of the line. How could he now be able to block the vengeful counterattack of a pseudo-heavenly venerate? Yet Ling Han did not panic in the least, and merely looked calmly back at the other party. He Yufeng, you have gone too far. Lin Piaoxua moved. Her jade-like arms moved lightly, her fingers like plucked flowers. She looked like she did not hold any internal heat at all, but the might she displayed was extraordinary. Pung! She easily sent He Yufeng into retreat. Though both of them were pseudo-heavenly venerates, He Yufeng had just advanced to this cultivation level, while it was possible that Lin Piaoxua was about to advance to the next cultivation level. The gap in power between the two of them was extremely wide. He Yufeng took over 100 steps back before finally regaining his footing. His face was completely crimson due to the impact from the blow delivered by Lin Piaoxua, as well as fury. Was it really so difficult for a pseudo-heavenly venerate to kill a puny seventh heaven? You truly wish to offend our He clan for the sake of this brat? He Yufeng demanded menacingly. Hearing his words, Du Shi and the others shook their heads. With He Yufeng saying this, he meant to use his old man, He Rong, to exert pressure. They were all top-tier prodigies, and their own strength was their true foundation, the true basis for their pride and confidence. Yet He Yufeng had placed his old man on the table now. This actually was him admitting his own incompetence. This naturally garnered their disdain. Immediately, they removed He Yufeng from the list of people who could be their equal. Lin Piaoxua's pretty face was calm, her complexion fairer than snow. It was as if there was no life to her at all. She looked at He Yufeng, her eyes holding a slightly strange look, as if they were filled with sympathy. If you do not want to trifle with our He clan, leave immediately. He Yufeng demanded, pointing at the doors. Sigh, what a dumb brat. A voice rang out slowly. Big brother. The large black dog immediately jumped up. It was the black donkey. The black donkey walked over slowly. He maintained a human-like posture, his two front legs crossed behind him and his round belly exposed. His sleazy appearance was not much better than the large black dog's. "Greetings, Lord Divine Donkey." Everyone hurriedly bowed in greeting, and even He Yufeng was no exception. Chapter 2680, 2680 Competing in Fathers. 2680 Competing in Fathers. The black donkey was a heavenly venerate, not a pseudo-heavenly venerate. So what if He Yufeng had escaped the binds of regulations? The rule that would never disappear and that would exist eternally was, only the strong would be respected. Everyone lowered their heads, and paid their respects to the black donkey. Even Lin Piaoxue curtsied slightly. "Uncle Donkey." "Uncle Donkey?" The black donkey walked over. "Pa." He kicked out a hoof at He Yufeng, sending him onto the ground. He Yufeng was furious. For better or worse, he was also a pseudo-heavenly venerate, not much inferior to the black donkey, but the latter actually dared to humiliate him like this? "Damn brat, I am saving you here." The black donkey stretched out a hoof to step on He Yufeng's face. "If your father knew about this, he would probably have to send me flowers to thank me." Everyone's mouth twitched. This donkey was really caustic. He had already stepped on the other person, yet was actually still declaring that this was for the latter's own good. He Yufeng was naturally mad with fury. He swore that he would definitely inform his father of this. "No matter how good your relationship with Zhou Heng is, you still can't treat me like this." The black donkey snickered, and rapped his hoof on He Yufeng's head. "Brat, you are still not giving up? Fine then. I will let you die satisfied. You are using your own father to exert pressure on others, but do you know who her father is?" he asked, pointing at Lin Piaoxue. Everyone couldn't help but prick their ears in anticipation, filled with curiosity. They also very much wanted to know what Lin Piaoxue's background was. To think that no one actually knew the origins of a pseudo-heavenly venerate, this kind of mystery would garner incredible curiosity in the first place. "Who?" He Yufeng asked stubbornly. "Competing in fathers with others, sigh, you are truly too naive." The black donkey still kept them hanging. Only once everyone's neck was stretched out extensively did he finally say slowly, "This little girl's father has the surname Lin." No kidding. Everyone was thinking this. Of course, not one of them dared to say this out loud. "And he's going by the name Xiaoyang," the black donkey continued calmly. "Lin Xiaoyang. Hiss, the 6th-tier heavenly venerate, Lord Lin Xiaoyang. Then that means, wouldn't Lord Lin Luo then be her grandfather?" The Lin clan, Lin Luo is a 7th-tier heavenly venerate, and his son Lord Lin Xiaoyang is a 6th-tier heavenly venerate. His two disciples, Lord Zhou Heng and Lord Yang Chu Hao, are both 6th-tier heavenly venerates as well. He is a legend among legends. Competing in background with her, this is truly hilarious. In the whole Genesis world, what other force can compare with the Lin clan? There may be some, but it definitely is not the He clan. Some were whispering quietly among themselves, but there were also others that did not have such reservations. That was because they, too, had 3rd tier, 4th tier, or even 5th tier heavenly venerate elders backing them up. What did they have to fear if it was just a few words of evaluation? Hiss, another pseudo-heavenly venerate has emerged from the Lin clan. Then, many years later, they would have another heavenly venerate. This is only Lord Lin Xiaoyang's daughter. I heard that Lord Lin Luo has a daughter as well. Though she was born countless years after Lin Xiaoyang, her natural talent is not the slightest bit weak either. Perhaps she, too, has long since become a heavenly venerate. The strength of the Lin clan has reached an unimaginable height. He Yufeng also heard everyone's words, and felt extremely embarrassed and angered, yet he did not have the slightest intention to refute what they were saying. Indeed, compared with the Lin clan, any other force was trash. A 7th-tier heavenly venerate, 3 6th-tier heavenly Venerate, one of them would be able to conquer more than half of the Genesis world. If he truly became enemies with the Lin clan, his old man would probably kill him with his own hands, and then bring his head as a token of apology to the Lin clan. Dumb brat, now do you know that I am saving you? The black donkey asked. He Yufeng had to admit that it was indeed possible that the black donkey had resolved a danger for him, but using his hoof to step on his face was clearly a deliberate act to humiliate him. The donkey was completely capable of saying this nicely and politely, right? Brother Ling, please come with me. Father wishes to meet you. Lin Piaoxue finally spoke, addressing Ling Han. She ignored He Yufeng completely. Perhaps a mere pseudo-heavenly Venerate was not even worthy of her saying a few more words as far as she was concerned. He Yufeng lowered his head, his heart filled with resentment. This kind of disregard made him feel even worse than the black donkey humiliating him. However, he dared not resent Lin Piaoxue at all. The Lin clan was a colossal force that he definitely could not afford to trifle with. Hence, he relocated all his hatred and fury onto Ling Han. This was the real culprit. He Yufeng was determined to kill Ling Han. Ling Han first nodded at Lin Piaoxue, then looked towards He Yufeng, and said, Lord He, what you have bestowed on me today, I will remember dearly. In the future, I will definitely repay you. This naturally was not repaying kindness, but seeking vengeance. A mere seventh heaven. He Yufeng clenched his fists tightly, but he naturally could not be bothered to argue with Ling Han. If a pseudo-heavenly Venerate still had to argue, that would be too demeaning of him. He merely humphed and said, If I ever see you again, that will be the time of your death. Ling Han continued to express his thanks to the two celestial kings of the Wang clan, and only then did he exit the abode with the large black dog. Come. Lin Piaoxue led the way, bringing Ling Han and the large black dog towards her vehicle. Shockingly, it was the carriage that was pulled by that yellow ox formed of divine metal. Ling Han and the large black dog exchanged a look, and both of them thanked their good luck. Thankfully, they had not really gone off to knock out the owner secretly. Otherwise, they would have crashed into a steel plate, and would probably have been thrashed in return by now. Senior Donkey, is the matter of the Celestial King graveyard already resolved? Ling Han asked the black donkey. These days, Ling Han either would be cultivating in seclusion, or he would be concocting alchemical pills. He had not met the black donkey yet. The black donkey shook his head. That brat had run off really quickly. When Zhou Heng arrived, that place was already completely empty. Who knows where they had all run off to? Ling Han frowned. This was truly a lurking peril. The process of advancing to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier had been interrupted. This would definitely have serious effects. However, even if it was just ninth heaven celestial kings, with so many of them appearing at the same time, the destruction they could cause would also be incredibly frightening. Even if the sky fell down on us, there would be someone taller to hold it up. Just rest your worries and focus on cultivation. What is important now is to increase your strength as soon as possible, the black donkey said. Ling Han nodded. This time, He Yufeng had used his strength as a pseudo-heavenly Venerate to bully Ling Han, so the latter was infuriated, but it also filled him with fighting spirit at the same time. He was eager to increase his strength. The black donkey left, and Ling Han and the large black dog boarded the carriage. Celestial Maiden Lin, hearing your words, your father wishes to help me advance my cultivation level? Ling Han asked. Correct. Lin Piaoxue nodded. Then, can I bring a few more people with me? Ling Han immediately started bargaining. Who was Lin Xiaoyang? The son of a 7th-tier heavenly Venerate, and he himself was also a 6th-tier heavenly Venerate. When this kind of mighty figure said that he wanted to help Ling Han advance his cultivation level, it was definitely not just a joke. A good opportunity naturally could not be missed. Lin Piaoxue was surprised, and after being taken aback for a moment, she said, You may, but it is not everyone that can tolerate this kind of training. Let's give it a try. Ling Han invited the Rain Emperor. He naturally could not leave his brother out of this. Then, he also brought the Empress and bewitching maiden Ro with him. They were his wives. Additionally, the large black dog naturally would not be missing out on such benefits. Thus, the 4 people and 1 dog all rode in Lin Piaoshua's carriage, setting off to the Lin clan. On the way there, since they had some idle time, Ling Han couldn't help but ask, Celestial Maiden Lin has not enrolled into the martial academy? No. Though Lin Piaoshua had an astonishingly powerful background, she did not put on any airs at all. As gentle as water, she replied, actually, descendants of truly great clans would not be enrolling into the martial academy. When they have trained to a certain extent in the clan, they would be sent to battle in the realm battlefield. As long as they can survive, their future prospects will be quite good as well. Just like her. Ling Han couldn't help but perk up. He had already heard of a great many things regarding the realm battlefield. All of a sudden, he really wanted to take a look there. Chapter 2681, 2681 Pool of 9 Deaths. 2681 Pool of 9 Deaths. If you go to the realm battlefield now, it is still too soon, Lin Piaoshua said seriously. The cruelty of the realm battlefield far surpasses your imagination. You must make even more adequate preparations. Ling Han nodded, and made no further mention of the realm battlefield. The carriage traveled very quickly. With a creature made of divine metal as horsepower, the speed was naturally amazing. It traveled from one spatial plane to the next, and they arrived at a mountain range over a dozen days later. After entering a specific doorway, the initially endless chain of mountains became even vaster, as if they had entered into a different world. They all disembarked from the carriage, and the golden ox sprawled out lazily, appearing extremely relaxed. The 5 of them strolled slowly onwards. There were structures on every mountain peak, and they could occasionally glimpse children laughing. They were not shy at all. Instead, they kept looking at Ling Han and the others, and the large black dog became the main focus of their attention. After all, it was extremely rare to see such a sleazy-looking dog wearing a pair of iron underwear. Aunt Shue, who are they? Aunt Shue, you're back. Great Aunt Shue, did you bring any nice food for us? The children all gathered round, chattering excitedly. Lin Piaoshua was as gentle as water. As she took out some things to distribute to these kids, she proceeded to make introductions for Ling Han and the others, about who this was, and who that was. This was where the Lin clan was, but it was not just the Lin clan. It also included the relatives of the Lin clan. For example, Lin Piaoshua's maternal relatives all lived here. The members of the Lin clan numbered approximately in hundreds of thousands. There were countless celestial kings in the Lin clan, but there were only about 10 who had reached the heavenly venerable tier, which was a pitifully small number. With the guidance of a 7th-tier heavenly venerate, the number of heavenly venerates was still that small. This showed just how hard it was to become a heavenly venerate. Led by Lin Piaoshua, Ling Han met with Lin Xiaoyang. This was the eldest son of Lin Luo, as well as the present clan leader of the Lin clan. Lin Luo, meanwhile, was constantly standing guard in the realm battlefield. A 7th-tier heavenly venerate was the main force in defense against hysteria, so how could he possibly find the time to come back? Lin Xiaoyang looked to be in his 20s. He was young and handsome, and had a slender build. He did not exude the slightest pressure, and looked as ordinary as any other person. This was what it truly meant to return to one's true self. Greetings, Senior. Ling Han bowed respectfully. The Rain Emperor, bewitching Maiden Ro, and the large black dog paid their respects as well, and even the Empress suppressed her pride, and curtsied slightly. Lin Xiaoyang's temperament was very similar to that of his daughter, nonchalant and calm, as if he could never get angry. He waved a hand dismissively, and said, I have heard a lot about you. You are quite impressive. I, as well as junior brother Zhou, both have very great expectations of you. To think a 6th-tier heavenly venerate would actually offer such high praise. If this was known to others, Ling Han would definitely become famous instantly. I am not the type that enjoys listening to pleasantries. If you wish to repay me, then advance your cultivation level as soon as possible, Lin Xiaoyang said. I have already opened the pool of 9 deaths for you. Piaoxue will bring all of you inside and explain how to use it. A 6th-tier heavenly Venerate was naturally very busy. Ling Han and the others all nodded. It was already very kind that Lin Xiaoyang had managed to find some time to meet with them. Lin Piaoxue led them away, and they very soon arrived at a mountain peak. There was a pool at the summit, and it was emitting green-colored fog filled with herbal essence. This is the pool of 9 deaths, Lin Piaoxue said. Ling Han and the others were all surprised. This pool was filled with the aura of life, so it should be called the pool of life. Why would it be named the pool of 9 deaths instead? Lin Piaoxue shook her head. All creations of the heaven and earth are amazing. In extreme death, life would be nurtured, and in extreme life, a great killing intent would also be hidden. She paused. At the bottom of this pool, there is a divine tree. It was the origin of wood that transcended Tao and rushed to the height of 9th heaven. Unfortunately, it garnered the jealousy of heaven and earth, and when it attempted to break through to the heavenly venerable tier, it failed and died. The essence of the divine tree is abundant, and is a supremely valuable medicine, but when the divine tree died, it was struck by the lightning of heaven and earth, so a boundless killing intent is also concealed within it. Afterwards, this pool was further refined by our clan elder, who inserted a considerable number of great herbs. Along with the power of a 7th-tier heavenly Venerate, the herbal essence in it has become more and more amazing. However, at the same time, the killing intent concealed within has also become more and more violent. If you enter, there is only a very narrow chance of survival, Lin Piaoxue said solemnly. However, if you can survive the killing intent within the medicinal effects, the benefits will also be boundless. Ling Han looked towards the Empress, Bewitching Maiden Ro, and the Rain Emperor. The 3 of them nodded at him. Why do you not look at Grandpa Dog? The large black dog howled. Do you people think that Grandpa Dog is the type to be afraid of death? We will remember this kindness deeply. Ling Han and the others all said to Lin Piaoxue, ignoring the large black dog completely. Lin Piaoxue nodded. It is all for the sake of the world. With the strength of the Lin clan, they actually no longer needed the gratitude of Ling Han and the others. Their motive was very simple, to oppose hysteria. You can enter into the pool to cultivate, and I will stand guard for all of you, she continued. Ling Han and the others were not reserved at all as they entered into the pool. Instantly, an extremely massive wave of life energy surged into their bodies, pushing their cultivation upwards quickly. Splash! The large black dog also jumped in. Damn dog, you are already at the peak stage of the 9th heaven. What have you come down for? I just want to absorb some nutrients. There's nothing bad about having some more, the large black dog answered shamelessly. Everyone was already long accustomed to how shameless the large black dog could be, so they did not say anything else, but rather concentrated on absorbing the energy inside the pool waters. But very quickly, their expressions changed. This energy was too violent. At the beginning, they could still tolerate it, but it very soon became a destructive tsunami that was raging violently in their bodies, practically crushing their bodies with extreme force. This was not just a feeling. Very soon, they discovered marks of blood appearing on their bodies. That was a sign that the blood vessels in their bodies had burst. You must stay a full day inside the pool, or not only would it not be beneficial at all, it would instead result in harm, Lin Piaoxue said from the sidelines. Fuck, Grandpa Dog has been tricked. If I had known about this, I would not have come in, the large black dog yowled. He was already at the peak stage of the 9th heaven, so it was impossible that he would improve any further. He was just too greedy, and could not bear to see others benefit while he could only watch from the sidelines. Thus, he very shamelessly came down with them, and as a result, he was suffering for nothing. Ling Han and the others were all holding on with gritted teeth, continuously absorbing the medicinal effects, and turning them into progress for their cultivation level. After a day, the 4 people and 1 dog hurriedly leaped out, all of them panting endlessly, especially the large black dog. He was even tearing up. "Come, attack me," Lin Piaoxue said. "You guys need to move about to activate the medicinal effects completely. Otherwise, this kind of violent medicinal effect will accumulate in your bodies, and exert a very strong effect on you." The 4 humans and 1 dog exchanged looks, and all of them moved, launching an offensive towards Lin Piaoxue. Though she looked unearthly, she was a dignified, great pseudo-heavenly Venerate. If she really became serious, she would not need too many moves to wipe them all out. Now, it was just to help Ling Han and the others move around for a bit, so Lin Piaoxue naturally would not go all out. Instead, she used herself as a target, and no matter how the 5 great elites ganged up on her, she merely dispersed their attacks, and would not counter. They fought for a whole 10 days before she finally called a halt. Ling Han and the others inspected themselves, and discovered that their cultivation level had actually progressed slightly. It was really a very tiny, small step forwards, and was a little negligible. However, to have such progress in just 10 days was extremely shocking. Chapter 2682, 2682 Peak of the 8th Heaven. 2682 Peak of the 8th Heaven. The medicinal effects had been refined, and the next step would be to enter into the pool of 9 deaths again to absorb some more. However, the facial expressions of the 4 people and 1 dog were extremely ugly. One couldn't just look at the exhilaration brought about by the increase in cultivation level, it was also extremely painful. They felt like they were almost about to collapse. No one would wish to experience it for a second time. Moreover, the pool of 9 deaths wasn't simply an exaggeration. A moment of carelessness would really cause death. Ling Han jumped in first. Needless to say, just thinking about He Yufeng's overbearing and domineering expression gave Ling Han endless motivation to trample on this bastard. This required strength, and the pool of 9 deaths would be able to give him strength. So what if he had to go through pain? After Ling Han, the Rain Emperor entered the pool without the slightest hesitation, followed by the Empress. She might be extremely tsundere, but her heart's desire to pursue strength was also extremely tenacious. Bewitching Maiden Ro hesitated. She really wanted to be strong, but the thought of the pain she had endured before made her back down. The increase in cultivation level. There was no hurry, since there would always be Ling Han anyway. The large black dog was determined not to go into the pool. He had already been deceived once, so he definitely wouldn't want to go through it again. Lin Piaoxue then said, "Although you are at the peak of the 9th heaven, this pool of 9 deaths will still do you good. It can enhance your battle prowess and make it more refined." The large black dog grimaced, but after considering it for quite some time, he eventually entered the pool again. "It hurts Grandpa Dog to death. What kind of sin has Grandpa Dog committed?" he cried out loudly. Lin Piaoxue was utterly speechless. How could there be such a shameless guy? If you couldn't bear it, then you could choose not to enter, and yet after you entered the pool, you still kept screaming like a banshee. It really made one speechless. Everyone absorbed the medicinal effects for 1 day, and then used the next 10 days to refine the medicinal effects. Their cultivation soared. Half a year, 1 year, 10 years. Time flew. After more than 30 years, Lin Piaoxue stopped keeping watch over them because she found that the 3 people and 1 dog not only had great perseverance, but also top-notch strength and natural talent, and could completely withstand being washed by the medicinal effects. Furthermore, the group of 4 including Ling Han could also battle one another to refine the medicinal effects, and no longer needed her to keep watch over them all the time. She was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. It was already enough that she had stood guard over them for more than 30 years. Ling Han and the others continued to cultivate, enduring the suffering inflicted upon their bodies, and marching forward despite going through extreme difficulties. During this period, the 4 of them had experienced several dangerous obstacles which nearly cost them their lives. Fortunately, their willpower was extremely strong, and they survived. 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, and finally 700,000 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Ling Han had reached the peak of the 7th heaven, and was qualified to charge towards the 8th heaven. There was no need to temper his foundations any longer, as the four were experiencing life and death situations on a daily basis, so their foundations were naturally solid. There was also no need to have a trigger for their breakthrough, as they were engaging in battles almost every day. Moreover, their evolution index was either 11 or 12, so breaking through was naturally something that was only a matter of course. Ling Han took his leave first, though, was to go through his tribulation. His 8th heaven tribulation already possessed the power of the peak of the 9th heaven, but this was basically the limit. When Ling Han broke through to the 9th heaven in the future, the tribulation that he would go through might only be at this level. Even if the might of the tribulation would be slightly greater than this, there was no way it would be much greater. Kwang. Heaven and earth exhibited its power to stop Ling Han from going one step further. However, since Ling Han had cultivated the indestructible celestial king physique to great accomplishments level, his physique was only slightly worse off than divine metal. Heavenly tribulation could strike him until he was drenched in blood, but that would be about it. It wouldn't be able to go any further. One day later, the heavenly tribulation dissipated. Yet Ling Han did not show any sign of relaxing. Even at the 8th heaven, he was still unable to contend with a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, so he still needed to continue improving. Back at the pool of 9 deaths, Ling Han buried himself in cultivation. Hundreds of thousands of years later, the Empress and the Rain Emperor broke through respectively. Time flew. 7 million years later, Ling Han had advanced his cultivation to the peak of the 8th heaven, but he had encountered a bottleneck, and was unable to push through the doors to reach the 9th heaven. On the contrary, the Empress and the Rain Emperor were making great progress, and they were about to catch up to him in cultivation level. Little Han, 9th heaven is the limit of the regulations. This level is not so easy to break through, the large black dog said. You need to experience the world and understand the regulations before you can take this final step. Ling Han nodded. Monarch stars would be able to enter the 9th heaven without any difficulty, but this did not mean that he could watch his cultivation level soar just by sitting still. One would still need to go through the necessary route, and the required process could not be dispensed with. It was just that for some people, even if they were to take such a route, they might never be able to reach the end, and yet Ling Han could not only walk smoothly, but also reach the end very quickly. Grandpa Dog is almost finished here. It's time for us brothers to go out. Brat, when you reach the 9th heaven, you will probably be able to battle even pseudo-heavenly Venerates, the large black dog roared. Defeat that little bastard Yufeng. He has only entered the pseudo-heavenly Venerate realm slightly earlier, there's nothing great about it. Ling Han nodded, and decided to leave with the large black dog first, whereas the Empress, Bewitching Maiden Ro, and the Rain Emperor would continue with their cultivation here. Bewitching Maiden Ro would occasionally enter the pool of 9 deaths for cultivation, but the time that she spent entering once was enough for the others to enter more than a dozen times, so the increase in her cultivation level was far from that of Ling Han and the others. The Empress and the others agreed that Ling Han and the large black dog would leave and return to the Martial Academy first. After more than 10 days of traveling in haste, the duo returned to the Martial Academy. In the blink of an eye, more than 7 million years had passed, and the great commotion caused by Ling Han previously had naturally subsided a long time ago. However, when people occasionally noted the names of Zhang San or Li Si on the Eternal Stone, it would make people lament that there had once been an extremely impressive character with the cultivation level of 7th heaven who had injured a pseudo-heavenly Venerate within the Martial Academy. Of course, if not for the people who were present at that time, most of the others would still doubt the incident's authenticity. How could a 7th heaven celestial king hurt a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? Ling Han and the large black dog were very low-key, and quietly entered the Martial Academy without attracting anyone's attention. However, the Martial Academy was only so big, and no matter how low-key the team of 1 person and 1 dog was, they were still noticed, and this soon caused a wave within the Martial Academy. However, the grand event that everyone had anticipated, for Ling Han to battle against Yufeng once again, did not take place, as Yufeng had left the Martial Academy millions of years ago already, and it was said that he had gone to the realm battlefield. Yufeng had naturally been aggravated, but it was definitely not because of Ling Han. No matter how freakish a seventh heaven celestial king was, it wouldn't make him have a sense of urgency. Rather, it was due to Lin Piaoxue, who was also a pseudo-heavenly venerate. He Yufeng felt incomparably small in front of Lin Piaoxue, which prompted him to firmly resolve himself to go to the realm battlefield, seeking to improve his battle prowess through bloody battles. That bastard should consider himself lucky, otherwise Grandpa Dog would surely beat him to death, the large black dog shouted, after he breathed out a sigh of relief. Ling Han shook his head. Although our strength has improved by leaps and bounds, it is still impossible to overcome the obstacle that is the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. We are definitely not He Yufeng's match. At that time, Ling Han had used 2 heavenly venerate techniques at the same time at the cost of injuring himself, but it had merely caused Yufeng to sustain a slight injury and bleed a little. Given that he had now advanced his cultivation level to the next level, He Yufeng would be slightly more injured at most. Furthermore, He Yufeng had taken the blow because he had been afraid of losing face at the time, while he could have dodged it completely in reality. If Ling Han was to fight He Yufeng again, would the other party still be limited by an agreement of 10 moves? However, as long as I can make it to 9th heaven. Ling Han's eyes flashed with cold light. At that time, he would have no fear of even a pseudo-heavenly venerate. Chapter 2683, 2683 Divine Demon Sword undergoes tribulation. 2683 Divine Demon Sword undergoes tribulation. Ling Han believed that when he reached the 9th heaven, he would have the strength to battle against a pseudo-heavenly venerate. This was because he had been tempered by void particle energy all this while. In fact, he had long been a pseudo-heavenly venerate, but it was unknown how large the gap in strength between him as a pseudo-heavenly venerate and a real pseudo-heavenly venerate was. However, once Ling Han entered the 9th heaven, and he wouldn't even need to reach the peak, he would then truly be able to stand on the same level as a pseudo-heavenly venerate. And should he reach the peak of the 9th heaven, then he would become a pseudo-heavenly venerate through and through, with the ability to absolutely crush other pseudo-heavenly venerates. Why was this? This was because other pseudo-heavenly venerates used the unique power of heaven and earth to temper their bodies, but Ling Han used void particle energy. Void particle energy was one of the 6 fundamental powers of the Genesis world, and was naturally more powerful than the said unique power. This was superiority in terms of quality. The problem now was that Ling Han had to break through to the 9th heaven first. Soon, a visitor from the Wang clan arrived again. It was still Wang Yangming, who continued to cooperate with Ling Han on behalf of the Wang clan. After millions of years, the Wang clan had collected sufficient divine metal. You actually broke through to the 8th heaven? Wang Yangming was stunned. He knew that Ling Han was extremely freakish, and his strength was so powerful that he could even injure a pseudo-heavenly venerate, but now this guy advanced from the 7th heaven to the 8th heaven within 10 million years? This speed was indeed overwhelming. Ling Han nodded, and didn't say that he had actually reached the peak of the 8th heaven, and was only one step away from breaking through to the 9th heaven. What he lacked now was just an opportunity. The two chatted for a while. Ling Han once again expressed his gratitude to the Wang clan, while Wang Yangming also expressed his hope to have a deeper cooperation with Ling Han and to forge a deeper relationship, for example by marrying a certain little princess of their clan, causing Ling Han's face to involuntarily darken. Damn, it has been so long ago, but the Wang clan still hasn't forgotten about it. After Wang Yangming left, Ling Han began to upgrade the divine demon sword. This time round, the Wang clan had sent over a dozen pieces of divine metal in one go, which should be enough for the divine demon sword to advance to the next level. After learning that news, the large black dog was also very excited, and ran over to witness the event. As Ling Han took out the divine demon sword, the devouring metal activated instinctively, and it immediately began to devour the divine metal. In the face of devouring metal, as tough as divine metal was, it could only be easily swallowed, and as the essence in it was completely extracted, it turned into dust. 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. As more and more divine metal was swallowed by the divine demon sword, this celestial tool exuded a blazing light, and ancient characters started to appear, but they could not be deciphered. "Little Han, don't miss out a single word." The large black dog opened his eyes wide. This is the Heavenly Venerable Seals, a language that only Heavenly Venerates can understand, and it can communicate with the fundamental power of the Genesis world. However, the Heavenly Venerates can understand it, but can't manifest it. Only when devouring metal is upgraded to the Heavenly Venerable tier will it stimulate the heaven and earth, which will manifest these supreme characters. Ling Han hurriedly widened his eyes with rapt attention. He quickly discovered that the indestructible Heaven Scrolls contents that he had seen on the Black Tower were somewhat similar to these characters, but they were far less complicated and profound. The Heavenly Venerates naturally had a glimpse of the essence of the Genesis world, and the amazing techniques which they created might be a different approach leading to the same desired effect. It was just that karmic life Heavenly Venerable had merely taken only one step, after all, so at most he would have gotten insight into some kind of fundamental power of the celestial realm, so the technique which he had created was not as profound as this. But thanks to this, the karmic life Heavenly Venerable could pass down the indestructible Heaven Scroll, otherwise, even a Heavenly Venerate wouldn't be able to write it down. Ling Han couldn't understand it at all, but he gained a lot of insight because he realized that as long as such characters floated in his mind, the efficiency of the void particle energy within him increased many times over. It originally took 1,000 years to sense and extract a void particle, but now it would only take 10 years. It had actually increased by 100-fold. This was mighty amazing indeed. Ling Han was overjoyed at the unexpected turn of events. Even if these characters of the Heavenly Venerate had no other effect, and just improved his ability to sense a void particle, it was already enough. Boom! The divine demon sword suddenly released immeasurable celestial light, tearing the sky apart. The surging of thunderclouds could be seen, and the heavenly tribulation was quickly taking shape. "Little Han, run quickly, a Heavenly Venerate tool will face a tribulation, and with our strength, staying nearby is courting death." The large black dog quickly grabbed Ling Han and ran, his face turning white with fright. Ling Han didn't dare to hesitate, and immediately ran after him. Xiao, the divine demon sword shot straight into the sky, facing the heavenly tribulation. There were bursts of lightning, falling towards the divine demon sword one after another, very close in timing and extremely terrifying. 1,000 instances of tempering, surpassing the level of divine metal. The large black dog sighed. In the past, Grandpa Dog has seen the karmic life Heavenly Venerable refine the Tower of Three Realms, but at that time, the Lord became a Heavenly Venerate, so he could help the Tower of Three Realms fight against the heavenly tribulation together, but now it is all up to the divine demon sword itself. If it can survive, it will truly transcend. Failing, it will turn into dust. Ling Han said nothing, he just looked up at the sky with a firm resolve in his eyes. Ling Han believed that the divine demon sword would definitely be able to survive because it was a precious tool that he had refined himself. With it following him all the way for so many years, his character had been completely integrated into it, hence, the more setbacks it encountered, the stronger it would become. A Heavenly Venerate tool was facing tribulation, so the commotion was so great that the entire martial academy was alerted. Even the two Heavenly Venerates who were in charge also opened their eyes and looked into the sky. The layers of bricks and tiles could not block their vision. There is going to be another new Heavenly Venerate tool emerging. That's strange, there is no third Heavenly Venerate here. Could it be that this Heavenly Venerate tool was actually refined by a celestial king? How daring, are they not fearful of the ruthless heavenly tribulation blasting the core of the precious tool to smithereens, leaving nothing? The two Heavenly Venerates sighed, and then withdrew their gazes. They were veteran Heavenly Venerates. Naturally, they had already refined Heavenly Venerate tools in their own realms, and would not have any ideas about the divine demon sword. Of course, had it not been for the fight against hysteria, which made all the Heavenly Venerates put aside their prejudices and come together, then they would definitely have taken action to snatch the sword. Who would think that having another Heavenly Venerate tool would be too much? One day later, the heavenly tribulation dissipated. The divine demon's sword fell from the sky, with only 1/3 of the blade remaining, and the whole thing appeared dull and dim. Sure enough, without the master's support, it couldn't survive. The two heavenly venerates opened their eyes again, and shook their heads. Others in the martial academy had also witnessed it. Even if not all of them recognized this to be a heavenly venerate tool facing tribulation, they were also thinking that the divine demon's sword had failed to ascend to the next level, and naturally no longer paid any attention to it. This world had always been like this, only the successful would be famous for an eternity, while losers would only be immediately swept into the dust of history. The divine demon's sword fell and landed beside Ling Han's feet, the whole blade appearing dull and having lost all its consciousness. It actually failed. The large black dog was filled with disappointment. He had been looking forward to the advancement of the divine demon's sword, and that it would suppress Heavenborn in the future, releasing the spirit of the karmic life heavenly venerable. This had already become his obsession, but now that divine demon's sword failed to advance to the next level, it naturally made him extremely disappointed. Ling Han bent down, picked up the divine demon's sword, and shook his head, saying, "I don't believe it would fail." He possessed such confidence. First, it was because the heavenly tribulation had lasted for a whole day, so the divine demon's sword had indeed survived the heavenly tribulation. Second, this was something that was integrated with his martial intent, his firm and indomitable conviction, so how could it fail? Chapter 2684, 2684 Yun Aokong. 2684 Yun Aokong. The large black dog grabbed the divine demon's sword, and looked it over repeatedly, yet ended up shaking his head. There is no life to it at all anymore. He gave a flick with his paw. Paw! A section of the blade fell down just like that, and with a stomp from him, it immediately turned into dust. This toughness. Just how many times was it inferior to divine metal? Ling Han took the sword from him, and circulated his divine sense carefully through it. As expected, this divine sword that had originally been filled with life and sharpness had become dead and heavy. There was not the slightest sliver of reaction from it, and it had also lost the sturdy structure of the divine demon sword. It was loose and lax. To say nothing of Ling Han, even if it was just a 3-year-old child, a light tap would probably turn the divine demon's sword into the dust of history. Had it really been so madly struck by the heavenly tribulation that it had been completely finished? Ling Han could not believe it. He scanned the blade over and over again. The large black dog sighed, turned, and left. Since the divine demon's sword could not advance to become a supreme heavenly venerate tool, then going to get another was not a realistic plan. They could only wait until either one of them broke through to the heavenly venerable tier. By then, it would be possible to suppress Heavenborn. However, it was possible that this time would come a considerable number of years later. Ling Han would not give up. He kept holding on to his faith. The divine demon's sword could be considered a secondary body of his, possessing his unique trait of becoming stronger when encountering setbacks. How could it have possibly been struck dead with just a heavenly tribulation? 3 days later, Ling Han's divine sense had already flowed tens of thousands of times through the divine demon's sword. Suddenly, he touched a point. This point was negligible, and it was extremely easy for him to pass it by in a flash, yet Ling Han discovered that there was a sliver of life left inside this point. He studied it carefully, and a hint of a smile appeared at the corners of his lips a while later. This kind of life surpassed divine metal. Though there was just a sliver, it could suppress all in terms of quality. The divine demon's sword had indeed survived the heavenly venerate tribulation, but because it had not had the protection of its master, it had also been incredibly difficult for it to undergo the heavenly venerate tribulation. Paying the price of being practically completely destroyed, the sword had managed to survive. Thus, after undergoing the heavenly tribulation, it had not shone in brilliance. Instead, it was like it had failed to survive the heavenly tribulation, and had directly dropped down from the skies, so everyone thought that it had failed. But even if it had succeeded, this price was too great. Practically the whole sword had been destroyed and turned into scrap metal. It's fine. As long as the core is there, it can be repaired. Ling Han thought. Even for a cultivator, as long as they had survived the heavenly tribulation, no matter how severe the injuries, they could be healed. By then, their strength would soar and surpass their previous strength completely. Once the divine demon sword was repaired, it would be a truly supreme heavenly venerable tool, and advance to that strongest level. Ling Han did not inform the large black dog, and decided to wait until the divine demon sword recovered to give this guy a surprise. Next, Ling Han began concocting alchemical pills. Since he had already accepted fees from the Wang clan, he should deliver upon the promised time. Moreover, the Wang clan had previously supported him even if it meant becoming enemies with the He clan. Ling Han had to acknowledge this debt. After working for several months, Ling Han finally completed his mission. When Wang Yangming came, Ling Han asked him about the recent events in the martial academy. Aside from the fact that He Yufeng had gone to the realm battlefield, so had Heavenborn. Heavenborn was still a seventh heaven, but why was he able to go to the realm battlefield? That naturally was because his physique was too amazing. His physique was at the level of divine metal, and his defenses went all the way up to the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. Thus, as long as he was being careful, he would still be able to help here and there at the realm battlefield at the very least. Ling Han hesitated. Should he go to the realm battlefield? He had not made his decision yet, but the news of his return had already spread out in the martial academy, which also caused some people to pay him a visit. Just a few days later, a person appeared in front of his abode. It was like someone was about to die. He was banging strongly and loudly at Ling Han's door. This was too vulgar. Ling Han opened the doors, and saw a young man that looked to be in his 20s standing in the doorway. There were 4 ribbons of iridescent light wrapped around him, his vitality very energetic and filled with heroic spirit. This man was very handsome, but it was unfortunate that the pride in his expression was too strong. It was as if he was looking down in disdain on the rest of the world, as if everyone should kneel down in front of him. "So you are Ling Han?" this young man asked boldly. "Pa." Ling Han sent a slap right over. How could that young man manage to dodge? Immediately, he was sent to the ground with this strike, passing out completely. How rude. Ling Han shook his head. Though he was using his superior strength to bully someone weaker, and had been the first to make a move, the fact that a mere 4th heaven dared to treat an 8th heaven celestial king like this was in itself an act of provocation. Even if he was beaten, he would deserve it. Ling Han had no worries that he had broken the rules of the martial academy. Moreover, Ling Han was just quietly staying at home, and hadn't trifled with anyone. Wasn't the other party just asking to be beaten? Ling Han slammed the doors shut and returned, continuing to nurture the divine demon sword. This sword had the same origins as Ling Han. His martial intent could stimulate the recovery of the divine demon sword, and this was something that only he could do. That young man simply lay like that at Ling Han's doors. There would be people passing by now and then, and when they saw this, they couldn't help but feel amused. Isn't that Yun Aokong from the Yun clan? A 4th heaven monarch star, and the Yun clan has placed very high hopes on him. Why would he be lying here? Isn't this the abode of Ling Han, that bringer of calamity? Hiss, Yun Aokong must have angered Ling Han, and that is why he has been knocked out. But there doesn't seem to have been any conflicts between him and Ling Han, right? I don't get it. When this news spread out, a great many people who had planned to visit Ling Han gave up that idea. How could Ling Han be so overbearing? Even the young master of the Yun clan was not worthy of entering? Though Yun Aokong was only a 4th heaven celestial king, the grand elder of the Yun clan was a 3rd-tier heavenly venerate. Could it be that Ling Han was really related to the Lin clan? Otherwise, how could he be so domineering? Yun Aokong only regained consciousness after being out cold for 3 whole days. He hurriedly scrambled to his feet, his expression slightly dazed, but immediately, he flew into a fury out of humiliation. He had actually been knocked unconscious here. Though he did not know how long had passed, it would definitely not have been any short period of time. There were definitely others that had witnessed his embarrassment. Damn! Peng, pang, pang. He began knocking on the doors again. After a while, the doors could finally be seen opening, revealing that face of Ling Han that was filled with impatience. Ling Han, you are too arrogant. I am of the Yun clan. Pang. Ling Han's hand descended, and another slap knocked Yun Aokong unconscious. He could not be bothered with whatever Yun clan, Ma clan, or Whatchamacallit. At the moment, his focus was completely on mending the divine demon's sword. There just happened to be people who witnessed this, and the news instantly spread throughout the whole martial academy. The young master of the Yun clan had been knocked out at Ling Han's door 2 times in a row. When everyone heard this news, they first erupted into laughter, and then shook their head. Ling Han was truly one who dared to oppose a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. He did not even take the Yun clan to heart. True, the He clan also had a grand elder that was a 4th-tier heavenly Venerate, and Ling Han was still not seen to hold much fear either. Another 3 days later, Yun Aokong slowly came back to his senses. His whole face was flushed crimson, and his expression darkened. As the most outstanding heir of the present generation of the Yun clan, he had naturally grown up under the protection of countless people since childhood. Furthermore, who would not give some face to a 3rd-tier heavenly Venerate? Thus, he had never encountered any setbacks before. But in this place, he had been knocked out before he had even finished speaking, and was just lying at another's door like that, exposed completely to the elements. He really was about to go crazy. However, remembering his mission, Yun Aokong forcefully suppressed his fury. He could not just return miserably like this, after all. Right? He knocked on the doors again, but he was using much less force this time. He had finally learned his lesson. Chapter 2685, 2685 Old Debts. 2685 Old Debts. A while later, Ling Han came out to open the doors. Ling Han, I am of the Yun. Pang. The unfortunate Yun Aokong spoke just a few words before being knocked out again. 3 days later, he slowly came to for the 3rd time. His first reaction was to kill Ling Han, and he was going to swallow and skin him alive at that, but remembering how he had been knocked out 3 times in a row, he finally woke up to reality. Ling Han was a great man who dared to oppose even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Actually, he had not believed in this kind of rumor. For a 7th heaven celestial king to be capable of wounding a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, wasn't that the greatest joke in the world? But now, he was starting to believe it. At the very least, this guy's courage was indeed astonishingly great. With such thoughts, Yun Aokong had finally learned his lesson, and knocked cautiously on the doors. The doors opened, and Ling Han appeared. I am Yun Aokong. Greetings, senior brother Ling. Yun Aokong corrected his attitude and bowed towards Ling Han with his fists clasped together. He was feeling uneasy. He wouldn't be knocked out with 1 strike again, would he? He had already been traumatized. In the end, Ling Han made no further move. After these few times, this young man finally understood the meaning of rules and how to respect others. He asked, what is it? Yun Aokong's mouth twitched a bit. He had been knocked out 3 times, and finally managed to get a chance to speak seriously. It had truly been very difficult. Thinking of his business here, his arrogance returned. I have come on behalf of the Yun clan to ask senior brother Ling to concoct alchemical pills for us for 100 million years for free. Pa. His words had just fallen, and he was once again knocked out cleanly by Ling Han. Ling Han gritted his teeth. Even if they came to him, bearing various kinds of natural treasures, concocting alchemical pills would still be up to his mood at the time. Had every single member in this Yun clan had their heads kicked by a donkey? They actually demanded that he concoct alchemical pills for them for 100 million years for free? Fuck, idiots. At present, he no longer needed divine metal. What he needed was ingredients that could help boost his physique to the level of indestructible divine metal physique. These might not be as valuable as divine metal, but they were strange and rare, and the difficulty level of obtaining such materials had increased several hundred times over. He had asked the Wang clan to search on his behalf, but it was possible that he would not be able to collect all of them even after several 100 million years. Thus, even if the Yun clan had come with divine metal as well, he would not give them any regard, what more when they were demanding that he do it for free. Did they think he was stupid? This time, Ling Han's force was considerably stronger because Yun Aokong only regained consciousness after 7 days. Shaking his head, he raised a hand to rub his head, and his expression became livid. By now, his head was as swollen as a pumpkin. Ling Han. He forced out through gritted teeth, but he hadn't said all he had come to say. There was no way he would return just like this, so he could only knock on the doors again. The doors opened to reveal Ling Han. Don't move. Let me finish my words. Yun Aokong hurriedly exclaimed, and even used his arms to protect his head. He was really traumatized by the repeated strikes. Seeing how Ling Han had not hit him, he hurriedly exclaimed, "Don't think that our Yun clan has gone too far. Our Grand Elder has said that you should not forget that the Celestial King graveyard was destroyed on your account." Ling Han was slightly taken aback before realization immediately dawned on him. When he came back to report the matter of Desolate Moon's conspiracy, causing Zhou Heng to step in and forcefully destroy the Celestial King graveyard, only a limited few people had managed to leave alive. That was because the majority of them had already been affected by the Black Qi, which was Hysteria's willpower, so they could only be killed. Actually, he had done them a great service. Otherwise, if tens of thousands of pseudo-heavenly venerates appeared, who knew what kind of frightening damage would be caused? However, some forces thought that it was Ling Han who had cut off one of their sources of income. Ascending Dragon Pill. Outside, no one dared to sell Ascending Dragon Pills openly, because this thing was really too filthy. It was formed by being irrigated with the blood and flesh of celestial kings, but these great forces could use it to boost the strength of their own clansmen. When they were all strong, they naturally had a greater say in things, and could then earn even more profits. For the sake of this, they had even sent their own clansmen there, and one example was the Azure Ghost Celestial King. But with the trouble caused by Ling Han, the Celestial King graveyard was completely gone, which naturally cut off the supply of Ascending Dragon Pills as well. It was definite that a great many forces would be angered by this. The Yun clan was the first to seek him out for a reckoning. They could not demand compensation from Ling Han directly. After all, the matter of the Celestial King graveyard could not be discussed openly. Thankfully, Ling Han was also a great alchemist, so they had gotten the idea to demand him to concoct alchemical pills for them for 100 million years for free. How truly delusional. Pa! Ling Han knocked Yun Aokong out with another smack. 9 days later, Yun Aokong finally regained consciousness. This time, he did not knock on the doors again, but rather turned and left. He had finally said all he had come to say. Since Ling Han was being so stubborn, he'd just wait to meet the fury of the Yun clan. However, just to say these few simple words, Yun Aokong had actually been knocked out 5 times. Just the thought of it depressed him, and he was cursing Ling Han half to death in his heart. After Yun Aokong left, another few people paid Ling Han a visit. They either were polite, or would be threatening. However, all they said was more or less the same, and that was demanding that he compensate them for the losses incurred due to the destruction of the Celestial King graveyard by concocting alchemical pills for them for free. Ling Han naturally ignored all of them. Be it beating them up or chasing them away, he did all of it. If it were not for the fact that it was not proper to kill people in the martial academy, he really would rather be merciless so that he could finally get some peace. After Yun Aokong and the others returned and described Ling Han's attitude, it naturally garnered the great displeasure of the various great forces. As they saw it, Ling Han had ruined the Celestial King graveyard, and now he was actually going to slip away, forgetting the matter entirely? How could there be such a good thing in this world? Not long after, a great many Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings entered into the martial academy, planning to deal with Ling Han. As for the heavenly venerates, All the heavenly venerates had gone to the realm battlefield as per their agreement. They could only return for a period of rest after battling countless years. Thus, whether you were a 3rd tier, 4th tier, or 5th tier heavenly venerate force, there was no way you could ask for the interference of a heavenly venerate. Moreover, what kind of big deal was this? To ask a 3rd tier or 4th tier heavenly venerate to interfere just to deal with a 7th heaven celestial king? Naturally, they did not know that Ling Han had already advanced to the 8th heaven. When 9th heaven celestial kings moved, as long as there were enough of them, they could even oppose a pseudo-heavenly venerate, so suppressing a puny 7th heaven celestial king was naturally no issue. Inside the abode, Ling Han breathed out a long sigh of relief. He spread open his hand, and a small sword lay in his palm. It really was very small, not even half an inch long, but though it might look small, it emanated a frightening aura, and even heavenly venerates would be moved. A heavenly venerate tool. With Ling Han's nurturing, the divine demon sword had already recovered to the present size from its initial size of a point. It was growing up just like a child. Pang, pang, pang. Right at this moment, a knock rang out from the doors again. Ling Han sighed. Was he really too amicable, and that was why people kept coming to cause trouble for him? He stood up, and the divine demon's sword was also immediately covered with rust. Its size rapidly grew. These bits of metal had all fallen off the divine demon's sword, so they had a certain level of nurturing effects as well. He went out to open the doors. Amazing, there were actually over 39th heaven celestial kings standing at his doorway. All of them had unleashed their auras, having absolutely no reservations. Aside from them, there were also young people like Yun Aokong. They, on the other hand, were standing very far away, all of them crossing their arms over their chests, and looking coldly at Ling Han. They wanted nothing more than to watch Ling Han be stomped into the ground, because they were all victims, and had suffered before in Ling Han's hands. Ling Han, you are truly outrageously bold. You still refuse to confess your crimes after causing such great trouble, a 9th heaven celestial king spoke up in rebuke, directly finalizing Ling Han's crime. Ling Han smiled slightly. It is best not to expose the matter of the celestial king graveyard. If you guys get lost now, I will not be bothered to drop to the same level as you guys either. Otherwise, do not blame me for being ruthless. Chapter 2686, 2686 Surrounded. 2686 Surrounded. The 9th heaven celestial kings would naturally not take this kind of threat seriously. To say nothing of the fact that Ling Han was only a 7th heaven, even if he was a pseudo-heavenly venerate, so what? About 10 of them working together would be able to block him, and when more than 30 peak stage 9th heaven celestial kings moved at the same time, even a pseudo-heavenly venerate would shudder a bit. This brat is unreasonable, looks like we can only take him down. That's right. Take him down. If we do not teach this kind of person a good lesson, it will damage the prestige of the Martial Academy. We cannot allow a bad apple like this to ruin the image of the Martial Academy. These celestial kings all showed their ugliness here. Regulations were being channeled, and they were about to make their move. They were arrogant enough to actually make a move in full public in the Martial Academy. They were unafraid, because they all had the backing of heavenly venerates, and they had long since given prior notice to the 2 heavenly venerates that were presently overlooking the Martial Academy. It was fine as long as Ling Han returned to the Martial Academy unharmed at the end. Of course, that was the bottom line as well. If disciples were injured under their watch, that would be truly inexcusable as well. It was not an assault from hysteria, after all. Ling Han's eyes swept over them, and he said, aside from those kids behind you, you all don't belong to the Martial Academy. Am I right? So what about it? These 9th heaven celestial kings all responded disdainfully. Ling Han revealed a grin filled with killing intent. In that case, it will be fine even if I kill all of you. How dare you? These 9th heaven celestial kings all rebuked coldly. A seventh heaven celestial king actually dared declare that he would kill all of them. They really had no idea where he got his courage from. Ling Han, do you need help? Du Shi's voice rang out. He stood proudly in midair, making no move to conceal his peak stage ninth heaven aura. Who knew how much stronger he was than other ninth heaven celestial kings? It was extremely possible that his evolution index had already reached 12. Hee, if you do, I do not mind interfering either. Can you also appeared? He crossed his arms over his chest, his eyes turning red. His killing intent seemed to have already been ignited. I am here as well. Amu appeared at another side. The three great big shots appeared at the same time, and they all seemed very unconcerned. They did not take these ninth heaven celestial kings to heart at all. Ling Han laughed, and said, thank you. However, they are just some trash. I am more afraid that there are not enough of them for me to kill. Damn! Those ninth heaven celestial kings were all fuming with rage. It was one thing that Amu and company were so domineering. They were all famous freaks, and it was publicly acknowledged that they were capable of becoming heavenly venerates. The only question was just how much time they needed. But who did Ling Han think he was? He was nothing but a seventh heaven celestial king. Did he think that just because he managed to make Yufeng bleed, he was already a pseudo-heavenly venerate himself? No way. Brat, let me teach you the proper way to behave. A ninth heaven celestial king jumped out, and then grabbed out at Ling Han. This strike was extremely direct, using the ninth heaven celestial king's cultivation level to overwhelm Ling Han. There were 9 heavens in the celestial king tier, every single step forwards as difficult as ascending the heavens. Cultivation level was the greatest advantage a celestial king could have because the regulations they could extract at different cultivation levels were completely different. Ling Han stood motionlessly, and waited until the assault of this 9th heaven celestial king almost reached him before he finally threw a punch. But when this fist moved, it was as fast as a streak of light. Pung! His fist pierced through his opponent's offensive, the force of the punch penetrating deeply. And when the expression of that celestial king changed dramatically, the force of the blow had already reached him. With crushing power, he was instantly sent flying. Wah! That celestial king collapsed onto the ground, throwing up blood continuously. Instantly, a dead silence fell. What's going on? A 7th heaven celestial king actually punched so hard that it caused a 9th heaven celestial king to throw up blood? 8th heaven. When Ling Han moved, 8 ribbons of iridescent light immediately appeared around him. Not even 10 million years have passed, and he has already advanced from the 7th heaven to 8th heaven. He truly is a freak. But even if he is an 8th heaven celestial king, to defeat a 9th heaven celestial king with a single punch. This is really too inconceivable. The expressions of those 9th heaven celestial kings all changed drastically. They had never imagined that Ling Han was actually so powerful. This was a 9th heaven celestial king. It was extremely hard to break through to the 9th heaven. No matter how freakish Ling Han was, he would also be stuck at the 9th heaven for a period of time, and after he crossed this threshold, his strength would also spike. Thus, there were definitely no weaklings among those who could advance to the 9th heaven. They were all elites that had reached the standards required. Even such big shots like Amu and Du Shi would only be able to oppose 4 to 5 9th heaven celestial kings at the same time. How could Ling Han be so strong? Amu and the other big shots all showed hints of surprise. The present Ling Han was already completely equipped with the qualifications to stand against them. Then, wouldn't Ling Han be able to suppress them once he broke through? Just how was this brat cultivating? The reason was very simple. That was because Ling Han was using void particle energy to temper himself. He was technically a pseudo-heavenly venerate himself, but he was still limited to the 8th heaven. It naturally was no issue for him to match a peak stage 9th heaven celestial king. At this moment, all the 9th heaven celestial kings felt grim. They finally knew that it was not because Ling Han enjoyed boasting that he dared to say such a thing, but rather that he really did have the strength, and this strength reached a level far beyond anyone's imagination. There is no need to worry. There are more than 30 peak stage 9th heaven celestial kings here. As long as we all work together, it is still a small matter for us to take this brat down, a 9th heaven celestial king of the Yun clan said. That's right. More celestial kings nodded. An 8th heaven celestial king was only just an 8th heaven celestial king. Faced with a force like them, even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would have to take a few steps back. Ling Han took a deep breath, and said evenly, "Today, I will use the heads of 9th heaven celestial kings like you to establish my reputation. I truly would like to see if there would be others that would dare to stretch out their paws towards me in future." Shameless talk. All the 9th heaven celestial kings were exploding with fury. Ling Han did not waste any more words. He moved. Pang! Exerting force from his feet, he stomped on the ground, and his whole person instantly shot into the skies at an extraordinary speed. Don't even think of running. All the 9th heaven celestial kings hurriedly set off in hot pursuit, fearing that Ling Han would escape. Ling Han was all alone, but there were many 9th heaven celestial kings. It was definitely impossible that they all had the same speed. Furthermore, to prevent Ling Han from escaping, the faster celestial kings would naturally race out at full speed, not daring to hold the slightest bit back. In this manner, the over 30 celestial kings instantly became a long line of people. It was at this moment that Ling Han suddenly made an about turn. He suddenly halted, and then charged back downwards, his fists waving furiously. The 9 transformations divine scroll was already being channeled, and with the present force of Ling Han's fists, even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would have to sustain considerable injury if they were hit. How could the foremost celestial king expect that Ling Han would actually dare to turn around and charge back towards them? He did not have any time to dodge at all. He hurriedly concentrated all his power into his hands, which were wrapped with great Tao as he rushed forth to meet Ling Han's incoming offensive. Pang! They exchanged blows once, and it was visible that the hands of that celestial king had instantly been crushed from the impact, turning into shreds of blood and flesh that flew in all directions. Moreover, his skin was rippling like the waves of water. Pang, pang, pang. His arms looked like they were each an open umbrella, leaving behind only a skeletal frame as blood and flesh were flying out from the impact in an arc. Ah! That celestial king screamed out in pain. This injury was really too serious. And with this delay, the other celestial kings also caught up, and they all directed their respective attacks at Ling Han. Ling Han couldn't help but sigh. He was only at the 8th heaven, after all, and was not a genuine pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Even if he had prepared for this attack fully and carefully, he had only caused serious injury to his target, but could not kill him with a single punch. Chapter 2687, 2687 Killing 9th Heaven Celestial Kings. 2687 Killing 9th Heaven Celestial Kings. But the people who saw this scene from below were absolutely stupefied. Although Ling Han had once knocked back a 9th Heaven Celestial King with a single strike, it was possible that that Celestial King had been careless, and had not gone all out. However, the current situation was different. Everyone already knew how freakish Ling Han was, and yet the opponent was still injured by a single strike from Ling Han, which meant that Ling Han's strength was insane. However, the 30-odd celestial kings had already caught up and surrounded him. It's over now. Having fallen into this encirclement, it's impossible for Ling Han to escape. Unless he is a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. 10 celestial kings at the peak of the 9th heaven could only take on a pseudo-heavenly Venerate and just barely manage a tie, but if one really wanted to bury a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, it would be completely impossible to do so without 100 or so celestial kings at the peak of the 9th heaven. Hence, it would have been naturally easy for a pseudo-heavenly Venerate to break through such a siege. But in Ling Han's case, it was impossible no matter what. Unless the 2 lords in charge of the martial academy take action. That's impossible. These ninth heaven celestial kings dare to take action publicly. Obviously they must have already given them prior notice. As long as they don't seriously injure Ling Han. Below them, Yun Aokong and the other young people kept sneering, expressing delight as they were finally going to see the devil who tortured them pay the price. Amu, Du Shi, and Can You looked at each other, and all of them frowned slightly. They were thinking, how would they resolve such a predicament if it were them? Confronting the enemies forcefully would definitely lead to adverse consequences. Even if one could kill off a few celestial kings, one would eventually be overwhelmed. What was Ling Han to do? Simple. With a loud battle cry, he fought wildly without any reservations. Reckless, too reckless. Wasn't this accelerating his defeat? Boom! All the ninth heaven celestial kings launched their attacks together, the regulations circulated dazzlingly, and the regulations of the great Tao exploded with such monstrous power that even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would probably frown, right? Ling Han threw punches to counter the attacks, but there were too many attacks. Some of the attacks were neutralized by him, while some were not, and they hit him. However, a terrifying scene appeared. These attacks that hit Ling Han's body splattered into brilliant rays of light, but they couldn't break through his defense. What? All the celestial kings were stunned. This was mind-blowing. What kind of defense did this brat possess? It was practically supernatural. Indestructible celestial king physique. Having cultivated such a physique, even if all the ninth heaven celestial kings blasted him together, it still wouldn't cause any wounds. Only a pseudo-heavenly Venerate could cause damage to this kind of physique. So, what did Ling Han have to fear? He rampaged through the group of celestial kings and launched attacks arbitrarily. He didn't need to be concerned about defense at all. Below, everyone who was witnessing all this was dumbstruck. He actually possessed such a supernatural physique. Perhaps it wouldn't lack by much even when compared to Heavenborn's. Perhaps the defense of Heavenborn would be slightly stronger, but the question was, would the battle prowess of Heavenborn be able to tear through Ling Han's defense? It was fine as long as it was useful enough. Ling Han shouted and punched furiously with both fists. Not only were these forces unappreciative of his contributions, they even blamed him for the destruction of the Celestial King graveyard. This made him extremely angry. In his opinion, these people ought to be thrown into the realm battlefield, and fend for themselves or perish on their own. Well then, let him clean them up now. Ling Han delivered blows without any qualms. Within just 30 minutes, more than a dozen celestial kings were injured by him. However, as Ling Han couldn't keep channeling the 9 transformations divine scroll or the 5 elements lightning technique all the time, these celestial kings were only slightly injured. He wasn't very satisfied. He had originally planned to kill a few of them. However, such battle prowess stunned each and every one of them. Was Ling Han a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? Being besieged by more than 39th heaven celestial kings, not only was he not suppressed, he injured more than a dozen celestial kings instead. There was no one else with such battle prowess. Unleash your ultimate technique. Those celestial kings flew into rage due to humiliation, and felt that their faces were hot with embarrassment. The fact that so many celestial kings had joined forces to besiege an 8th heaven celestial king already made them lose face, and they were even injured by their opponent. In the future, how could any of them be able to hold their head high? A dozen or more celestial kings continued to tie up Ling Han, and the other celestial kings began launching ultimate attacks to destroy Ling Han in one fell swoop. This was a shameless move, but very effective. A dozen or more celestial kings could detain even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, so of course they could block Ling Han as well. Therefore, Ling Han could only look helplessly at those celestial kings launching powerful attacks, but could do nothing at all to stop them. Subdue him. 7 celestial kings took the lead in gathering power, and blasted out terrifying attacks. Boom! 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 More celestial kings launched powerful attacks to suppress Ling Han. The endless radiance shone brightly and dispersed in a dazzling manner, like beautiful fireworks, but all the people watching the battle were thinking the same thing. Such a fierce attack had better not kill Ling Han, as that would be a big problem, and the Lin clan might appear. What kind of existence was the Lin clan? With a 7th-tier heavenly Venerate in charge, even if Lin Luo would not appear personally, Zhou Hein, Lin Xiaoyang, or Chu Hao could just walk out and defeat 99% of the Genesis world. Who could afford to provoke them? The radiance of the attacks dissipated, and what could be seen in the center of the battle zone was a streak of golden light transforming into a spherical shape. Ling Han. He had activated the indestructible heaven scroll, and directly blocked the powerful attacks of the celestial kings. He was practically unscathed. He was still injured, there were wounds on his arms and lower abdomen, but they were only minor injuries. After all, there were about 30 celestial kings at the peak of the 9th heaven who had blasted powerful attacks simultaneously, so even indestructible heaven's scroll wasn't able to prevent him from getting any injury. However, such injuries were naturally trivial, and it was impossible for them to affect his battle prowess. They had to be seeing things. All the celestial kings were numb with shock. Such defensive power practically made them feel hopeless. There was absolutely no solution. Ling Han's killing intent was blazing, and he finally took out the divine demon sword. If he wanted to break through the defenses of these celestial kings and start killing them, it was absolutely impossible to do it with just his own strength. Then he would use the most supreme precious tool. Ha ha ha. When they saw Ling Han taking out such a weapon, all the 9th heaven celestial kings laughed out loud. Did you take out something so tattered just for the fun of it? They had not used any celestial tool. Firstly, it was because divine metal was rare, and it was not possible that every single person could obtain a piece. Secondly, they wanted to capture Ling Han, so they naturally would not use any celestial tools. Otherwise, it was possible that he would be killed or injured severely, which wasn't their original intention. Just now, they were shocked because all their powerful attacks were blocked by Ling Han, but now they were laughing hilariously. Ling Han also laughed. Now these people were laughing, but they would be crying later. He took a step. His body art exploded, and his speed was so great he was already in front of one person. He slashed out with his sword. Now all these celestial kings knew that his body art was amazing, so they moved in groups of 2. When one person was being attacked, the other person would help to cope with it. Hence, 2 great celestial kings simultaneously sent out attacks to counter Ling Han. Pooh! Cold light dazzled, and the 9 heavens shook. Although the 2 celestial kings had blasted out their attacks, in the midst of the swirling of the cold light, they were undoubtedly cut in half. Slashed at the waist like they were nothing. This. What was going on here? Even if the tattered and broken sword was a celestial tool, 9th heaven celestial kings also stood at the peak of the regulations. With them entwined in great Tao, not even a celestial tool could kill them. But with one slash, both celestial kings were cut in half. This was too ridiculous, wasn't it? After a long time, someone finally stuttered with great difficulty, Heavenly Venerate tool. Chapter 2688, 2688 regarded as a great emperor. 2688 regarded as a great emperor. Heavenly Venerate tool, supreme might. Ling Han stood with his sword in hand. It was speckled with rust like a knife that had been kept for a long time in a woodshed, but who would dare to underestimate this sword now? This was a supreme precious tool, and killing celestial kings was like child's play. So what if Ling Han's strength was low? Even if it was a 10-year-old child holding a peerless divine sword, the consequences of an adult taking it on point blank would still only cause him grievous injuries. Furthermore, Ling Han's strength wasn't feeble at all, and not in the least inferior to the peak of the 9th heaven. In fact, he could even suppress them in reverse. For a while, blood rained from the sky, mourning the passing of the 2 celestial kings. All the celestial kings were trembling. They had never thought that the situation would have developed to such a state. Now, do you all feel the pain? Ling Han said menacingly, and he slashed out again without the slightest hesitation. Since he had already started killing, why would he restrain himself anyway? He wouldn't mess with people voluntarily, but if anyone were to mess with him, he would hit them until they experienced bone-deep pain. Kill! Ling Han burst out with the power of body art, and his speed was astonishing. He was slashing out with the divine demon's sword in hand, not needing any technique at all. This was the invincibility of an ultimate weapon. Immediately, the 30-odd celestial kings fled in all directions. There was already an example laid out in front of them. 2 great ninth heaven celestial kings were easily cut into halves easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. When the destructive power of the supreme precious tool swept past them, any celestial king would only be killed on the spot. Who would want to be the third one? They were originally just an unruly mob, and naturally they would be united when they had the upper hand, but in the face of danger, they would naturally care only for themselves, with no regard to the life or death of others. However, Ling Han was even faster. He caught up with one, slashed out with the divine demon sword, and, sure enough, this celestial king was cut in half. Blood splattered all over, and once again triggered a great natural calamity. The last time Ling Han had started killing like this, he had depended on the Black Tower for a power boost to slaughter many celestial kings in the foreign realm. After so many years had passed, he could finally slaughter celestial kings with his own strength. Moreover, they were all ninth heaven celestial kings, and their bearing was on a different level completely. After climbing in the world of martial arts for so many years, Ling Han had finally reached the pinnacle of the celestial path, and possessed the qualifications to look down on the rest of the world. He could be regarded as a great emperor. Ling Han kept up his hot pursuit, and the awful screaming continued. He caught up with one celestial king after another, and they were each slashed by his sword. With his strength and the power of the divine demon sword, no one could block any of the sword's attacks. However, by the time Ling Han had killed the 11th person, the remaining celestial kings had already escaped into the distance, and it was impossible to catch up to them. However, he had killed 11 celestial kings in one battle, and scared off the remaining 20 or so, and they were all celestial kings at the peak of the 9th heaven at that. Wasn't this enough? He's the strongest celestial king by far, no? Absolutely. Even if Yu Feng were to come over, he wouldn't succeed. He would only be beaten up badly and flee in disgrace. It's not that Yu Feng is weak, but that the heavenly Venerate tool is too powerful. Who would have thought that Ling Han would actually take out a heavenly Venerate tool, one so incomparably domineering that it resolved the situation, and firmly establish his status as a great emperor of celestial kings. After this battle, it is likely that there won't be another celestial king who would dare to challenge Ling Han. Amu and the others also shook their heads. If it was a fair fight, they would naturally not be afraid of Ling Han. However, if it was a celestial king with a heavenly Venerate tool in hand, even they would be helpless. This battle had far-reaching consequences. The noble clans involved were all trembling. They didn't expect Ling Han's strength to be so powerful. Which of them would dare to cause trouble to Ling Han again? More than 10 ninth heaven celestial kings had died in vain. Who asked them not to be disciples of the martial academy? If the heavenly Venerates in the realm battlefield wouldn't return, Ling Han would really be able to do anything he liked in the whole realm, and probably even pseudo-heavenly Venerates might not be able to suppress him, right? As Ling Han's figure descended, he cast a glance at Yun Aokong and the others, and said lightly, "Don't worry, I won't touch any of you. As long as you don't take the initiative to provoke me, you will remain under the protection of the Martial Academy's rules." Only then did Yun Aokong and the others breathe a sigh of relief, feeling the sensation of cold sweat on their foreheads. "But all of you will report the location of your ancestral grounds," Ling Han added. What did this guy intend to do? He wouldn't charge towards their home bases, right? Why the delay? Ling Han glared at them. Yun Aokong and the others dared not say anything else, and quickly revealed the whereabouts of their respective clans. As a matter of fact, they couldn't believe it. Would Ling Han really dare to make a move against their clans? One ought to know that they were all heavenly Venerate level forces, and their background was extremely powerful. It wasn't something that a puny 8th heaven celestial king could even imagine. Once they had left, Amu and the others came over. Junior brother Ling, it seems that you are stuck at a bottleneck before the 9th heaven, Du Shi spoke first. I have been there. This level is very hard to describe. Some people have passed through it after tens of thousands of years, while there are others who still remain at the same level for millions and millions of years. Furthermore, the higher one's talent, the more difficult it is to break through. This is a sign that heaven and earth is targeting you. Ling Han nodded. Given heaven and earth's hindrance, of course it would be beset with difficulties. We have also been stuck at the peak of the 9th heaven for too long. We intend to go to the burst cloud volcano for training. It is an absolutely dangerous place where danger lurks at every step. You can come with us, perhaps you might find an opportunity for breakthrough. Amu spoke as well. Ling Han thought for a while. When are you leaving? Just in the next few days. Then you all can go ahead first. I still have some matters to deal with. Once I'm done, I'll meet up with all of you at the burst cloud volcano. All right. Amu and the others took their leave, and Ling Han returned to his abode. He was planning his itinerary as he wanted to make a trip to visit the forces that had besieged him just now, and have them provide him with an explanation for this matter. So he was an easy target to bully, was he? The over 30 celestial kings came from a total of 9 forces. He believed that this was only a small part of the forces that had interfered with the black market chain of profits at the Celestial King graveyard. The other forces might have yet to come to settle accounts with Ling Han, or they had yet to make a move. Ling Han couldn't care less. He only knew that if anyone held out a knife to him, he would return the favor with his fist fiercely. A short while later, the large black dog arrived. Brat, you are so powerful. His eyes shone. Just average, Ling Han replied, smiling. Was the divine demon sword really successful in upgrading? The large black dog almost couldn't believe it. Ling Han nodded. That's right. Great. The large black dog slapped his paws hard, and then showed a pitiful expression. Heavenborn has gone to the realm battlefield. If not, we could go strike a staggering blow tonight. Ling Han laughed heartily. There are heavenly venerates in charge here. It is too difficult to do bad things under their noses. It's even better that he went to the realm battlefield. As long as we find him, we can do whatever we want. That's right. The large black dog nodded. Before that, let's go to settle some accounts, Ling Han said. Grandpa Dog likes that. The large black dog nodded happily. With whom are we settling the accounts? After hearing Ling Han list the names of each of the forces, the large black dog couldn't help but twitch. Grandpa Dog takes back what he's just said. You should go on your own as I seem to have diarrhea. These were all heavenly venerate level forces. Who knew how terrifying their background could be? He definitely didn't want to go seeking death. It's alright, all the heavenly venerates are at the realm battlefield. Besides, let's bring Wally with us, Ling Han said with a smile. Makes sense. The large black dog nodded. Wally's ability to break formations was the best. With him around, their safety would be greatly increased. They went to call on Wally. Wally was reluctant to go at first, but once Ling Han took out 3 pieces of divine metal, he agreed. Chapter 2689, 2689 Debt Collection begins. 2689 Debt Collection begins. The Wang clan had sent over a dozen pieces of divine metal, but Ling Han did not use all of them. Now that the divine metal did not bear much significance to him, it was just appropriate for him to use it to settle the old outstanding debt to Wally. Having made payment of what was due, Ling Han and the others set off in accordance to the route he had planned out, and began their journey to each clan to seek an explanation. The Lu clan was the closest to them, but even with the trio's pace on foot, it took a month's journey to reach the place. They did not directly invade the place. Indeed, the Lu clan had a 3rd-tier heavenly venerate. Though he had already gone to the realm battlefield much earlier, and would only come back once in a long time, who knew what kind of formation a third-tier heavenly Venerate would set up, perhaps one that could even kill a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? It would be wise to be cautious. Wally stepped up first, and shot out a beam of green light for scanning and checking out the actual situation of the Lu clan. After 100 million years, Wally had also extracted all the energy in the Dimension Scroll, and his conversion efficiency far exceeded that of Ling Han. Ling Han had no idea if Wally's battle prowess had increased, but this scanning ability of his had indeed been improved by few hundredfold, and under the channeling of his intent, green light beamed out for a few hundred meters before becoming transparent in color, like the rays of sunlight, and even a heavenly Venerate wouldn't be able to distinguish it. 19 beings with vitality index of about 13,037 beings with a vitality index of about 12,000, Wally said as he was getting a clear picture of the actual situation of the Lu clan. There were only 19 Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings, which wasn't enough to fight them. Ling Han sighed ruefully, and then he laughed in spite of himself. 19 Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings could just barely manage to block 2 pseudo-heavenly Venerates, and in this world where the heavenly Venerates wouldn't appear, what was there to worry about? Moreover, even if there was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, how would he dare to offend the Lu clan? Wouldn't he be afraid that the third-tier heavenly Venerate of the Lu clan would flip out? "Brat, are we really going to do it?" the large black dog asked. He was still a little terrified. After all, the karmic life heavenly venerable had only been a first-tier heavenly Venerate back then, far inferior to the one from Lu clan. Of course. Ling Han nodded. He had neither provoked anyone nor stirred up problems for anyone, and yet these 9 major forces wanted to capture him for concocting alchemical pills. How could he let this slide? Is there any power at the heavenly venerable tier? Ling Han asked Wally. Wally shook his head. No. Since Wally said that there was none, then it had to be so. Come to think of it, that would be about right with the prestige of the third-tier heavenly Venerate in addition to 19 Ninth Heaven Celestial Kings. Would they need anything else? Let's go. Ling Han walked out first. The large black dog hesitated for a moment, and followed suit, while only Wally stayed in the same spot, and transformed his body into a stone. If it weren't for Ling Han and the large black dog witnessing the transformation with their own eyes, it would be impossible to distinguish him from other stones. "I'm not going," Wally said. "I'm an analytical war soldier, not a combatant. It's better for Grandpa Dog to be in charge of cleaning up the battlefield, and wrap things up at the end." The large black dog became terrified. "You're coming with me." Ling Han grabbed the large black dog. It was fine for Wally since he was only helping out, but the large black dog wanted to reap without sowing? "No, don't." The large black dog kicked out his hind legs madly, bearing a miserable expression like he was about to be eaten as dog meat. The two of them, one walking and the other screaming, soon came to the front door of the Lu clan. In fact, this was a city, but it completely belonged to the Lu clan. Although there were some people in the city whose surname wasn't Lu, they were all extended family members of the Lu clan, and they formed the huge structure of the Lu clan together with some servants. There was a guard at the door, and seeing Ling Han dragging a large black dog over, though it was extremely strange, he still dutifully stepped forward, and asked, "Who is it?" Ling Han stopped in his tracks, and said, "Go inform those who have the authority to speak and decide, and say that Ling Han is here to collect a debt." "Debt collection? Coming here to the Lu clan?" There were 4 guards at the entrance, and they all sneered when they heard this. "What kind of place is the Lu clan?" "It is a holy place overseen by a heavenly Venerate. Are you here to court death?" "Insolence." A guard jumped out immediately. Without knowing the strength of Ling Han, of course they wouldn't notify the higher-ups. Otherwise, the Lu clan might put up great fanfare, but the visitor could actually be just someone of Mountain River tier. Wouldn't that make Lu clan the laughingstock of the realm? And they would be severely punished. "Take him down." He made a move and grabbed Ling Han. Ling Han stepped on his foot lightly, and the ground suddenly split open, a crack extending from under his foot all the way to the city wall. When it reached the root of the city wall, it didn't stop, but continued to move up. Ka, a humongous crack immediately appeared on the city wall as if it was a mouth bared out in a grin. The guard who made the move earlier stumbled, and his body swayed for a moment before he regained his footing. He stared in horror at the crack around him, and turned around following the extension of the crack. When he saw that the city wall was damaged, he was practically scared out of his wits. This city wall had been refined and enhanced by many celestial kings, and it was sufficient to withstand several attacks from high-level celestial kings, but Ling Han just stomped his foot, and the city wall was cracked open. There was no direct attack at all. Wasn't this enough proof of how powerful Ling Han's strength could be? The 4 guards trembled simultaneously. This was a really overwhelming strength. It was just that they were still puzzled. No matter how strong Ling Han was, he couldn't be compared to the 3rd-tier Heavenly Venerate. Why would he dare to charge here to the doors of the Lu clan? What's going on? A sharp voice sounded, and a figure flew out from within the city and landed at the city gate. He pointed to the crack in the city wall and interrogated the 4 guards. This was a young man. Judging by the flame of life, he had cultivated for hundreds of millions of years at most, but was already wrapped around by a ribbon of iridescent light. He was a first heaven celestial king, which was truly extraordinary. The 4 guards were still numb, and upon hearing what was said, they all pointed towards Ling Han. Him? The young man looked at Ling Han, and couldn't help it as the corners of his mouth twitched. What kind of combination was this pair? Ling Han appeared normal, but he was holding a large black dog, and this large black dog was too abnormal. Although his fur was smooth like satin, he was wearing a pair of black iron underwear, which was reflecting cold light. No matter how one was to look at him, there was a vulgar aura that emanated from him. Just who do you think you are? How dare you destroy the gate of our Lu clan? The young man knew that he himself wouldn't be able to do this, and that his strength was definitely not equal to Ling Han's, but when he was asking this, there was an air of haughtiness and arrogance about him. He completely looked down on Ling Han. This was the arrogance of the members of a noble heavenly venerable tier clan. They were like, so what about it? Given a 3rd-tier heavenly venerate as my ancestor, I can be overbearing and an arrogant bully. If you don't agree, then I will destroy you. Ling Han sighed, stretched out his left hand, and slapped the young man through the air. With the kind of strength did he have now? Since he already made a move, how would a first heaven celestial king be able to block it? Impacted by a slap in the face, the young man was suddenly sent flying, and quite coincidentally became embedded in the crack of the city wall, like a decoration. This person was a direct descendant of the main line of the Lu clan. Thus, seeing this, the 4 guards suddenly reacted, and hurriedly shouted loudly, "Fu!" Young master fuming. A guard pointed at Ling Han as he said, You're in big trouble. Quickly, go get reinforcements, the second guard yelled anxiously. Ling Han smiled. He effortlessly took out a chair, sat down, and smilingly said, "Don't worry, I'll be waiting right here. Go quickly and call someone over." Too arrogant, he was too arrogant. All the 4 guards were extremely furious. Having barged into the Lu clan and struck with absolutely zero restraint, Ling Han was still so relaxed. Chapter 2690, 2690 Compensate me for my losses. 2690 Compensate me for my losses. Little Han, quickly let go of Grandpa Dog, the large black dog shouted. Ling Han loosened his grip accordingly, and the large black dog ran off immediately. While running, he also exclaimed, "I will be on the lookout for you. If you lose, Grandpa Dog will come out to save you." Shio, he ran off and disappeared. This damn dog was really cowardly and only interested in saving his own neck. Ling Han didn't mind anyway. In fact, he even closed his eyes, and appeared nonchalant. The 4 guards were trembling with fear. Lu Fuming was still embedded in the city wall, with all 4 limbs dangling, and it was unknown whether he was dead or still alive. If someone from the Lu clan came out to ask, how would they answer? It seemed that whatever you were afraid of would materialize. A short while later, 3 figures arrived in a flash. Although the 3 arrived almost at the same time, they did not come together, but separately rushed here from 3 corners of the city. What's going on? Why is Fuming injured? And who is this person? The 3 of them cast a sweeping glance around, looking very angry. Who would be as bold as to come to the Lu clan to cause injury, and even damage the city wall of the Lu clan? It's him. The 4 guards hurriedly pointed at Ling Han. His name is Ling Han. Ling Han? The 3 people who came over all frowned. It seemed like they had never heard the name. It sounds familiar. One of them racked his brains for a while, and felt as if he had heard the name somewhere. He couldn't help but keep trying his best to recall it again. Humph, I don't care who you are, if you dare to come to the Lu clan to commit a crime, then you must be tired of living, said a man in green clothing. He was a 3rd heaven celestial king, and his face was full of arrogance. Even if you are a 9th heaven celestial king, you can only prostrate or go down on your knees here. This was the arrogance of the members of the Lu clan. No matter who Ling Han was, even if he was a 9th heaven celestial king, the Lu clansman was neither terrified nor afraid. Ling Han shook his head. You're really used to being arrogant and domineering, and don't even know how to talk properly. He waved his hand and struck the man in green clothing in a similarly nonchalant manner as he had before. It was another swat at empty air like before, as if he was swatting a mosquito. Pa! When the strike landed, the man in green was instantly sent flying, and he was tightly stuck in the crack of the city wall near Lu Fuming, with one on top of the other, as if they were trying to mend the crack on the wall with their own bodies. How brazen of you, you actually dare to make a move, the man in red shouted fiercely. This man was too reckless, how could he be so impudent? You can go join them too. Ling Han waved his palm again, and the man in red became embedded in the crack as well. You are Ling Han, that Ling Han. At last, the other man finally remembered where he had heard Ling Han's name, but when he raised his head, he saw that the 2 people around him had disappeared. As he turned to look for them, he found the 2 of them were embedded in the city wall together. It was really too brutal. He thought of the legend regarding Ling Han, who had killed more than 10 9th heaven celestial kings in one battle. They were all celestial kings at the peak of the 9th heaven. Even for a heavenly venerable tier force such as theirs, it would take several epochs to nurture a celestial king to reach the peak of the 9th heaven. The fall of one would mean that countless resources had been exhausted in vain. Now you know who I am. Ling Han smiled, but he still waved his right hand without hesitation. Pa, the last person was also sent flying, and became embedded in the crack of the city wall. I have always been fair in doing things. Since I was the one who broke the wall, I will fix it up, Ling Han said to himself. When the 4 guards heard it, the corners of their mouths twitched. They thought to themselves, how could you fix up the wall like this, filling it up with celestial kings one after another? This is too extravagant, and the Lu clan will be angered like crazy. Sure enough, another celestial king appeared after a short while. This time, more people came because the longer the interval from the time that the alert signal was issued, the more people would receive the news. Moreover, the longer the time it took for news that the alert signal was resolved to arrive, the more it would naturally seem that something was not right, and this had to have alerted certain powerful beings. Shio, more than a dozen celestial kings flew down from various corners of the city. When they saw that the city wall had cracked open, and it was filled with 4 celestial kings of their own clan, all of them had a cold glint in their eyes. Who could be so brazen? Did he want to die? You bastard, how dare you still remain seated? Hurry, be on your knees and receive your death penalty. A young man leaped out. He only had the cultivation level of the 2nd heaven, but there were clansmen at the 5th heaven and 6th heaven nearby, so he naturally was full of confidence and fearless. Noisy. Ling Han coldly snorted, and waved his palm at the young man through the air. Insolence. 2 sixth heaven celestial kings immediately snarled. How dared he resort to violence in front of them? They both moved, meeting Ling Han's incoming attack. Pung! 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 Accompanied by 3 bangs, the 2 sixth heaven celestial kings and the young man at the 2nd heaven from before were similarly sent off flying with a palm strike, and became embedded in the city wall. All the other celestial kings of the Lu clan couldn't help but feel chills all over their bodies. This was too savage. How could a 6th heaven celestial king be like a toy in front of Ling Han, sent off flying with just a casual slap through the air? Ling Han looked up at the city wall, and said to himself, it's still a dozen or so short. If it was filled with a dozen more people, the city wall would be patched up, albeit in a sloppy way. Hearing this, the other celestial kings of the Lu clan were all so scared that their faces became pale, and they all retreated one by one. Now the strongest among them was merely a 5th heaven celestial king, who would be as powerless as a sheep in front of Ling Han. Wang! A terrifying pressure descended, and an elite came down from the sky, wrapped in 9 ribbons of iridescent light. A 9th heaven celestial king had come. Finally, a real elite had appeared. Elder Chiyuan. It's Elder Chiyuan who has come. Elder, please take action and suppress this villain. Those celestial kings of the Lu clan shouted in unison. Now that their pillar of strength had come, they were suddenly all tough. The name of the 9th heaven celestial king was Lu Chiyuan. He looked at Ling Han, and said solemnly, so it is friend Ling who has arrived. Why not present your identity clearly so that Lu clan could receive you as a guest properly? What? Hearing this, all the others of the Lu clan were stunned. Had the elder gone crazy to be so polite to a villain? They were the Lu clan, with a 3rd-tier heavenly Venerate in charge. To say nothing of a 9th heaven celestial king, even if it was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate who had come, he would have to be respectful and courteous. Ling Han smiled lightly. I'm here to collect a debt. You can just barely be regarded as the person in charge. I'll ask you then, how will you pay for my damages after sending people to the martial academy to besiege me? Compensate for your damages? Lu Chiyuan almost jumped out. You killed 2 9th heaven celestial kings from our Lu clan, and yet still want the Lu clan to compensate you? However, thinking of Ling Han's brutality, more than 30 celestial kings at the peak of the 9th heaven had attacked simultaneously at that time, but the result was that not only had they failed to take down Ling Han, more than 10 celestial kings at the peak of celestial path had met their demise. They had suffered a colossal loss. Now, the Lu clan only had 19 9th heaven celestial kings, and there was no one at all with the strength of Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate. How would they be able to take on this brutal murderer? Ling Han, you best not forget that this is the Lu clan. Our Grand Elder is, after all, a 3rd-tier heavenly Venerate. Lu Chiyuan said menacingly. Now he just hoped that would scare Ling Han. When the Grand Elder of the Lu clan returned in the future, he would naturally suppress Ling Han. It would just be as easy as turning his hand over. Ling Han laughed out loud. If I had been afraid, why would I have come? He withdrew his smile and tapped the armrest of the chair. Don't waste my time. If you don't think carefully on how to compensate me, then I'll go in and get it myself. Chapter 2691, 2691 Not enough. 2691 Not enough. You, Lu Chiyuan pointed at Ling Han, so furious that he could barely speak. This is the Lu clan, you bastard. Ling Han's gaze became harsh. The thing I hate the most is when others point their finger at me. With a bounce of his feet, pang, he burst out instantly at an astonishing speed, charging towards Lu Chiyuan. Though Lu Chiyuan was very wary of Ling Han, it had not reached an extent that he did not dare to even battle him. For better or worse, he was also a 9th heaven celestial king himself. Evil brat, don't go too far, he roared, each hand grabbing a streak of great Tao, which he smashed towards Ling Han. When one had reached the height of the 9th heaven, there was no need to use any kind of secret technique when fighting lower-level celestial kings. They only had to grab a streak of great Tao and smash it into their opponent. This was the overwhelming power of a superior cultivation level, and was always successful. Ling Han smirked. Body art fused with regulations, his every punch was filled with force, and he very soon suppressed Lu Qiyuan. When those members of the Lu clan saw this, they were all involuntarily captivated. He is only in the 8th heaven. As an 8th heaven, he is already capable of suppressing Elder Qiyuan, who is at peak stage 9th heaven. Then what about when he advances to the 9th heaven? Would he then be able to suppress a pseudo-heavenly Venerate? Heavens! They all grabbed their heads in disbelief. This was a scene that they dared not believe. The impact was really too great on them. Damn! Damn! Lu Qiyuan roared in fury. Previously, he had only heard descriptions of Ling Han's strength from the mouths of those celestial kings that had escaped to the Lu clan. Now that he was facing him himself, he finally realized just how strong Ling Han could be. He did not dare believe it. How could an 8th heaven celestial king be so strong? Lu Qiyuan unleashed his full battle prowess, but he could not turn the situation around at all. No matter how much he struggled, it was useless. He was still being suppressed by Ling Han. You have gone too far, he roared in fury, and drew his celestial tool. This was an umbrella. The moment it was spread open, the initially clear sky immediately became dark and stormy. Z. Lightning flashed, exuding a pressure of supreme might. Die! Lu Qiyuan roared. Previously, more than 30 celestial kings had ganged up on Ling Han, but they had only wanted to capture him, and had not planned to take his life. In fact, they could not even inflict serious injury on him, so they naturally had not brought their celestial tools with them. But this time was different. Ling Han had already charged right up to their doors. Even if Lu Qiyuan killed Ling Han with his celestial tool, the Martial Academy would not say anything. Clang! A bolt of lightning soared angrily, striking down on Ling Han. Ling Han stretched out a hand to grab it. Pung! Sparks flashed, turning into countless seals shattering, and bringing with them some blood. He had been injured. After all, his indestructible celestial king physique had only reached great accomplishment level, and he had not advanced to the level of divine metal yet. Taking on the might of a celestial tool with his bare hands still caused him slight injury. It was a light injury, he had only bled a little. Ling Han shook his head. If he reached the 9th heaven, with great Tao wrapped around his hands, there was definitely no way he would be wounded by taking this strike head-on. Unless he was directly struck by a celestial tool. In that case, he would still be injured. He was only at the 8th heaven at present, but his battle prowess could suppress a 9th heaven opponent. That was because of his domineering body art. In terms of regulations, he naturally was still no match for a 9th heaven. When they saw how Lu Qiyuan had summoned his celestial tool, and wounded Ling Han with a single strike, those people of the Lu clan were all overjoyed, and they all erupted into loud cheers. Lu Qiyuan also showed a hint of a smile. It looked like Ling Han was only so strong. He had previously been able to make such a great show of his vicious might only because he had a celestial tool, and the others had not. You want to compete with me in precious tools? Ling Han grinned. Are you sure you want to do that? Humph, you have no idea about the power of our Lu clan yet. Every single 9th heaven celestial king would have a celestial tool, and if we unleash our might together, even a pseudo-heavenly Venerate would be no match for us. Lu Qiyuan sneered. You are only a mere 8th heaven celestial king, after all, so how could you know the frightening power that our Lu clan has accumulated through the epochs? Crack! 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 Bolts of lightning struck madly. Ling Han chuckled. This guy was really taking full advantage of the fact that he now had a slight upper hand. Did he really think that celestial tools were all that impressive? Then, let me give it a try. With a loud battle cry, Ling Han rushed forwards. Lu Qiuan waved his celestial tool in a sweep towards Ling Han, wanting to use his domineering might to suppress Ling Han. As for killing him, it would be better to force Ling Han to concoct alchemical pills after he captured him. This would have to depend on the decision made after the higher-ups discussed the matter. Shwa. Cold light swept past. Lu Qiuan was instantly sent flying, and he shockingly discovered that a small cut had actually been left on the surface of his umbrella. Ling Han's hand held a rusted sword, and it practically looked like a shabby knife used to cut firewood. However, it was precisely this sword that was so rusty to the point of becoming scrap metal that had damaged his celestial tool in a single stroke. This is. Lu Qiuan's expression changed drastically. The celestial kings that had escaped had said that there seemed to be a supreme precious tool in Ling Han's possession. Lu Qiuan had always scoffed at this. How could it be that a puny eighth heaven celestial king would have such a treasure? Yet now, he had no choice but to acknowledge this fact. If it was not a supreme precious tool, how could it possibly be so powerful? Still continuing the competition? Ling Han smiled. Lu Qiuan could not speak. The Lu clan naturally had a supreme precious tool as well, but it was always by the side of the Grand Elder of the Lu clan, and accompanied him to the realm battlefield. Faced with an elite whose battle prowess surpassed peak stage 9th heaven, added with a supreme precious tool, how was he able to block this? So Grandmaster Ling has arrived. Please forgive us for not coming out to receive you. A loud laugh rang out, and 18 9th heaven celestial kings appeared together. This was the strongest power of the Lu clan. Originally, they had been watching the battles secretly, but when they saw how Ling Han had drawn the divine demon sword and unleashed its might, they naturally could no longer sit by and watch. Thus, they all walked out together. Ling Han stood, sword in hand. Enough with the nonsense. My request is very simple. Make reparations for my losses, and I will leave immediately. The present clan leader of the Lu clan, Lu Yanghe, stepped out and said, previously, we had been deceived by a villain, and that was why we had made a move on Grandmaster Ling. This is indeed our mistake. Hearing these words, every member of the Lu clan felt their faces flush hotly. This was a humiliation. Since the Lu clan had been established, when had they ever suffered such a humiliation? They still had to apologize with a bowed head when someone had already charged right up to their doors. But who asked the members of the Lu clan to fail to live up to expectations? No other Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate had appeared from their midst throughout several epochs. Otherwise, how could they be so tragic? Just look at the other noble clans. Take the Wang clan for example. Their Grand Elder was a third-tier Heavenly Venerate, and they had afterwards a prodigy by the name of Wang Andi, who had advanced to the Pseudo-Heavenly Venerable tier after only cultivating tens of billions of years. He only had to take one more step, and becoming a true Heavenly Venerate was only a matter of time. Why did the Lu clan have no qualified successors then? We are willing to make reparations for Grandmaster Ling. Here are 3 pieces of divine metal, please accept them, Grandmaster Ling. With a wave of Lu Yanghe's hand, a beautiful woman immediately walked out, bearing a tray in her hands. There were 3 pieces of metal of different colors on the tray, but they were all exuding a stunning brilliance. This garnered the envy of many junior descendants of the Lu clan. Even 8th heaven celestial kings would be filled with envy. This was divine metal. In the Lu clan, one would only be bestowed with divine metal upon becoming a 9th heaven celestial king. This was the rule. Ling Han did not even glance at it. Waving a hand dismissively, he said, "It's not enough." His life was just worth 3 pieces of divine metal? They had to be joking with him. Every member of the Lu clan was enraged. What are you acting so pretentious for? If it was not for the fact that the Grand Elder of the Lu clan is based at the realm battlefield, what right would you have to act arrogantly? Ling Han, don't go too far, a 9th heaven celestial king rebuked. Our Grand Elder is standing guard at the realm battlefield, participating in the resistance against Hysteria's invasion. It is because of his sacrifice that you were given room to grow, yet you are now committing violence in the Lu clan. Do you even have any conscience? Ling Han laughed. You are right. The Grand Elder of the Lu clan is fighting against Hysteria. This kind of sacrifice and contribution is something I truly admire, but can this become the reason for you all to bully me, and use your superior status to humiliate me? Chapter 2692 Admitting Defeat. 2692 Admitting Defeat. When Ling Han's words fell, every single member of the Lu clan was silent. Some were only intimidated by Ling Han's aura, and did not dare speak, but there were others that were really reflecting on the errors of their ways. Their Grand Elder's sacrifice had indeed won honor and glory for the Lu clan, but they were simply using the tactics of a bully to squander away the reputation and prestige of their Grand Elder. Lu Yanghe took a deep breath. 10 pieces of divine metal. Not enough. Ling Han still shook his head. 10 pieces of divine metal was still not enough? What in the world do you want? Just exactly what does Grandmaster Ling want in exchange for resolving this grudge between us? Lu Yanghe sighed. Open your treasure chamber, and allow me to take my pick, Ling Han said. Woof. 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 The large black dog immediately charged over from the distance. Treasure chamber, treasure chamber, treasure chamber. He was extremely excited. They would really be making great profits if they could rob the treasure chamber of a heavenly Venerate. Impossible. Lu Yanghe immediately shook his head in refusal without a second thought. Ling Han raised the divine demon sword. Then I can only start a massacre here, right until there is no one who will stop me. He was determined to beat these great forces to the point that they developed a healthy fear of him, and would never dare to trifle with him again in the future. Otherwise, they would keep causing trouble for him. How irritating would that be? Lu Yanghe was furious, and wanted to immediately fight a battle with Ling Han, but when he saw the divine demon sword in Ling Han's hand, he swallowed the words that were just on the tip of his tongue. It was possible that the Lu clan would be obliterated if they fought. Though killing Ling Han would be just like child's play when the Grand Elder of Lu clan returned, how could Lu Yanghe bring himself to watch as the Lu clan that had flourished for several epochs declined in his hands? Lord Clan Leader, since it's a fight he wants, let's give him one. We of the Lu clan do not fear death. That's right. We are the descendants of a heavenly Venerate. We definitely cannot bring shame to his prestige. The members of the Lu clan were all calling out. These were basically all young people, filled with youthful vigor and hot-blooded, but even more of them maintained their silence. The threat that Ling Han posed was genuine. If it was only for the sake of their pride and some material objects that the Lu clan was destroyed, that would really be too dumb. To speak of nothing else, if Ling Han eliminated all the members of the Lu clan, would he not be able to calmly open the doors of their treasure chamber, and take everything that was contained within? That would make their bloodshed even more insignificant. Agreed. After a very long time of silence, Lu Yanghe finally spat out this word, and after he said this, it was as if he had aged a few decades in an instant. He no longer had any of the pride that he had once had. Today, the Lu clan had suffered such a great humiliation, and as clan leader of Lu clan, it was natural that he would feel it the most. Clan leader. A considerable number of the members of the Lu clan fell to their knees, tears streaming from their eyes. They were bawling and weeping like no tomorrow, as if countless people had died. Ling Han did not feel the slightest bit of compassion. Whose fault was it when it was the Lu clan who had trifled with him first? Furthermore, if it were not for the fact that Ling Han had impressive strength, he would probably be working in turns in the various clans by now, forced to concoct alchemical pills. Who would be sympathizing with him then? Ling Han and the large black dog entered the city, and after Lu Yanghe opened the treasure chamber, they immediately began to rake in their spoils. According to the large black dog, he would throw caution to the wind, and rob this place clean, but Ling Han was not as greedy. He only chose the most valuable items, such as Celestial King tier great herbs, divine metal, and the natural treasures that were needed for the cultivation of the indestructible divine metal physique. As expected of a supreme noble clan, they truly had astonishing wealth. Ling Han was very pleased. After making a whole round, he walked out and said, "Clan leader Lu, goodbye. We will come back frequently in the future." The large black dog followed up with a parting shot, which caused Lu Yanghe to grab his chest in agony, so pained that he could not even speak. The man and dog left the Lu clan, and met back up with Wally. Ling Han tossed a few pieces of divine metal to Wally as payment for his service. They set out again, and continued their raid. Zhao clan, Li clan, Sun clan, one after another, Heavenly Venerable tier forces bowed down in submission to Ling Han. Without a Heavenly Venerable tier powerhouse in their clans, how would they be able to stop the present Ling Han? After raiding the 6th clan, Ling Han had reaped a good harvest. If the remaining 3 clans would also provide such profits, he would be just about able to upgrade his physique to indestructible divine metal physique. The next one is the Yun clan. Several days later, they arrived at the Yun clan. The Yun clan was not on the ground, in the mountains, or out at sea, but rather at the top of clouds. Multiple grand palaces were borne by fluffy white clouds, floating in midair. They shone with dazzling golden light. This was truly an amazing sight. However, when Ling Han and company arrived, the Yun clan was also prepared. The doors of every palace were tightly closed, seemingly expressing that they did not welcome Ling Han at all. As per usual, Wally did a preliminary clan to check out the real situation. There is a living being with vitality index that has surpassed 14,000, Wally stated. 14,000. No matter how strong a 9th heaven celestial king was, their vitality index would only be over 13,000. There was no way that they could break through the great barrier of 14,000. Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate. Ling Han exchanged a look with the large black dog, and both exclaimed at the same time. "Iron Body, are you sure you did not see wrongly?" the large black dog asked Wally. Wally's expression was filled with disdain. He refused to answer this kind of question that was merely a waste of his energy. "Little Han, let's retreat," the large black dog said to Ling Han again. This was a pseudo-heavenly venerate. That was a being that no celestial king could be comparable to. In theory, 10 peak stage 9th heaven celestial kings were enough to match a pseudo-heavenly venerate, and Ling Han alone had fought more than 39th heaven celestial kings to the point that they fled in a panic. In that case, if Ling Han were to face off against a pseudo-heavenly venerate, it should be Ling Han's absolute victory. But this comparison could not be done in such a manner. The fact that Ling Han could suppress so many 9th heaven celestial kings was due to the fact that he had a heavenly venerate tool in his possession. No celestial king could possibly match that, and they could only be suppressed by Ling Han. But it was different for pseudo-heavenly venerates. Though they, too, could not stand against a heavenly venerate tool equally, it would not be a completely one-sided battle either. After all, the divine demon sword had only reached the heavenly venerable tier in terms of quality. Its might was still too far off from that level. On the other hand, a pseudo-heavenly venerate had the advantage in power and speed, and this was completely enough to cancel out the advantage that a heavenly venerate tool gave Ling Han. To have Ling Han fighting a pseudo-heavenly venerate now, even if he had the help of the divine demon sword, was still quite tough. He should only be able to escape. Because he was outmatched in both power and speed, he could only be beaten passively. No matter how great the power of the divine demon sword was, what was the use if it could not hit its target? We fight. Ling Han's fighting spirit sword. How are we supposed to fight? Wouldn't that be just delivering ourselves up to be defeated? The large black dog hurriedly pulled Ling Han back, not wanting him to deliver himself up to be defeated. Ling Han shook his head. "You and Wally retreat first. I want to try myself out in battle." Firstly, he indeed wished to see just how far off he presently was from pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. In the future, when he faced Yufeng again, he would also have some idea. Secondly, he was only a slight bit away from ninth heaven. He only needed a trigger to be able to cross over this new threshold. Perhaps that would be a little bit of pressure. This was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, that was enough to exert pressure on him. Brat, take care then. Grandpa Dog is leaving first. The large black dog had absolutely zero concept of the idea of loyalty, and he patted Ling Han's shoulder. If you die, Grandpa Dog will come and pick up your body. Ling Han laughed loudly. With a tap of his foot, he directly soared into midair, where he stood. Since the Yun clan still has a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, what is the need to hide and cower? Come out and battle me. What a truly brazen brat. A relaxed voice rang out, and a figure walked over through the air. This was a young man in green robes. He was handsome and dashing, bearing an intimidating charisma. How do I address you, sir? Ling Han asked smilingly. With his present strength, though he was still no match for a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, he was not too far off either. He was completely capable of speaking as an equal to a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Chapter 2693, 2693 Fighting a Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate. 2693 Fighting a Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate. For an 8th heaven celestial king to speak as equals with a pseudo-heavenly Venerate was slightly unimaginable. Ling Han really had a puffed-up opinion of himself, didn't he? But this pseudo-heavenly Venerate of the Yun clan merely smiled slightly, and was not the slightest bit angered. He replied, "My name is Yun Aokong." Good name. Ling Han nodded. Little guy, you are indeed considerably freakish, being able to suppress peak stage 9th heaven celestial kings when you yourself are only in the 8th heaven. Perhaps your glory can dazzle the ages. Even among those Lord 7th tier heavenly Venerates from before, there are only a very few that can be considered your equal. Yun Aokong made a very high assessment of Ling Han. But you should understand that celestial kings are only celestial kings in the end. In front of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, they are merely trash. When he spoke this last line, his brilliance was on full display, emanating a radiance that was similar to a supreme divine sword, so intimidating that it was suffocating. Then let us battle. Ling Han was filled with a heroic spirit as he charged towards Yun Aokong, sword in hand. Humph, do you really think that you can defy all rules? Yun Aokong sneered. With a flash of his figure, he, too, moved extraordinarily quickly. What was the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier? That was to use that unique power of heaven and earth to temper own body, and possess astonishing body art apart from regulations. In fact, this had even surpassed the level of regulations. When there came a day that not only could they use this power to temper their bodies, they could even extract and use it directly, they would then no longer be a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, but rather a genuine heavenly Venerate. A pseudo-heavenly Venerate was an existence that lay between the celestial king tier and heavenly venerable tier. Ling Han had used void particle energy to temper his body, so his body was definitely stronger than that of the average pseudo-heavenly Venerate, but with him being limited by his cultivation level, it was impossible that he could truly become a match for a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. This was a qualitative difference. Yun Aokong moved. He was even faster than Ling Han, and stronger as well. As he threw a punch, the force of his blow multiplied fold after fold, causing Ling Han's speed to rapidly decrease. Then, Ling Han stopped and retreated, speeding up, and pang. He was punched down to the ground, causing a loud bang to sound out from the ground as dust flew everywhere. Pang! Ling Han shot out from beneath the ground, his clothing covered with dirt and mud, as well as blood. Even his skin had cracked open. The attack of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate was indeed domineering. Even if Ling Han had improved further since the time he had faced off against a Yufeng, taking the strike of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate head-on still caused him to take a slight loss. Thankfully, this was only a small loss. It had only caused him some flesh injury, and had not damaged his bones or touched his core at all. Indeed, amazing physique. Yun Aokong nodded. He was certain that even if his body had been tempered by that unique power of heaven and earth, he still could not compare to Ling Han's physique. The latter had to have cultivated some kind of secret technique, and that was why he could boost the toughness of his physique to this kind of height. Ling Han patted away the dirt that covered him, and said, "The power of a pseudo-heavenly venerate is indeed great, but if Brother Yun's battle prowess is only limited to this, he. This kind of battle prowess was indeed superior to Ling Han's, but it was impossible that Yun Aokong could use this kind of battle prowess to suppress Ling Han completely. Then I shall show you the power of a pseudo-heavenly venerate." Yun Aokong moved again. It was a very simple move, just a simple punch. However, Great Tao moved with his blow, and boosted with frightening power. It was a magnificent strike that would spark terror even in ninth heaven celestial kings. Ling Han moved, sword in hand. Shwa! With a slash, this force was instantly cut by his sword, sliding past on either side of him. A heavenly venerate tool was indestructible. Good. Yun Aokong showed a hint of admiration. As expected of a heavenly venerate tool. It is clear that it has only advanced into this threshold in terms of quality, and cannot be considered a genuine heavenly venerate tool yet, but it can break apart even my assault. It is truly extraordinary. He stretched out a hand to grab Ling Han. His power took form, solidifying into a giant grayish-golden hand. It was covered with seals, and also exuded an aura that surpassed regulations. This was a pseudo-heavenly veneratiousing power that surpassed the celestial king tier as the main force and supplementing it with supreme regulations, having battle prowess that was superior to the celestial king tier, yet inferior to a true heavenly venerate. This precious tool, I shall gladly accept it. In your dreams. Ling Han laughed loudly, and channeled the 5 elements lightning technique. Pressing out with his left hand, he greeted the incoming assault of that giant grayish-golden hand. Boom! Power exploded, creating boundless, wild waves of energy. Xiao! Ling Han charged out. After using the heavenly venerate technique, his battle prowess had already touched the threshold of the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. At the very least, when Yun Aokong was not using a heavenly venerate technique himself, it was definitely impossible for him to suppress Ling Han. Ling Han shot rapidly towards Yun Aokong, slashing out with the divine demon's sword in his hand, and turning his original defensive stance into an offensive one. Confinement. Yun Aokong smiled slightly, stretching out a hand. He merely drew a circle gently with this hand. Instantly, Ling Han felt like the air all around him had solidified, forcefully stopping him. With a wave of his sword, shwa, 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 the air was slashed apart. He charged out, but during this kind of lapse, Yun Aokong had sent another palm strike his way. It was still that giant dark golden hand from before. In Yun Aokong's hands, this kind of attack could be displayed casually. He was a real pseudo-heavenly venerate, so unleashing this kind of attack was naturally no big deal for him. However, for Ling Han, the burden was too heavy. Even if he had leaped into the 8th heaven, he could only channel the 5 elements lightning technique for around 100 times. How could he bear up to using it so frequently? Pung! Ling Han did not use the heavenly venerate technique again. Instantly, his palm pressed down, heavily smashing into the ground. After several exchanges, Ling Han had fallen into a complete advantage. He was not the slightest bit discouraged by this, because this was something he had long since expected. There was no way his present battle prowess had surpassed the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier. He merely wanted to use the other's hand to temper himself. Yun Aokong, meanwhile, was slightly surprised. Though he had heard of how freakish Ling Han could be, he had not taken it to heart. After all, Ling Han merely possessed a heavenly venerate tool, and could attack to the point that 9th heaven celestial kings were forced to flee in panic, but in front of him, he would not be able to gain much advantage. He couldn't even come close enough, so how could he be able to pose a threat to him? Ling Han was too tenacious, having a tough physique and an iron willpower. Even if he was at a disadvantage, he was still extremely calm. Clearly, he was someone who had fought many battles where the odds had been against him. No matter how Yun Aokong tried to suppress him, Ling Han was always able to bounce back immediately. This kind of opponent was really a pest. Yun Aokong had to become serious. Being able to hold on until now, you are truly amazing. You can be considered the top in Celestial King tier, Yun Aokong said. However, if I use a Heavenly Venerate technique, just how many strikes will you be able to withstand? Ling Han threw out his fists. Just give it a try then. As you wish. Yun Aokong's arms spread open. His left arm stretched out and straightened, raised level in front of his chest, while his right arm made the motion as if he was drawing a bow. Wang! A golden light formed, and turned into an arrow aimed directly at Ling Han. The hair on the back of Ling Han's neck immediately stood on ends. He felt a suffocating feeling, as if he was faced with death. I'm not playing anymore. Ling Han hurriedly broke into a run. In the first place, his battle prowess was no match for a Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate's, and now, with the Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate unleashing a powerful attack, there was absolutely no possibility he could withstand it. If he took this blow head-on, even if he did not die, he would still be heavily injured. He really had to be a fool to actually do something like that. Yun Aokong was slightly startled. He had not expected that with how domineering Ling Han had spoken just moments ago, he would actually turn around and directly run in the blink of an eye. He was being so forthright and frank, and did not even leave behind some parting lines. Thinking about it, it was reasonable. Wasn't it logical that an 8th Heaven Celestial King would avoid a battle with a Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate? If Ling Han confronted him forcefully, there would not be one person that would praise his courage if they knew about it. They would only call him a fool. With these thoughts, Yun Aokong's grip loosened. Go! With a soft exclamation from him, the golden arrow shot out in hot pursuit of Ling Han. Chapter 2694, 2694 Embarrassment of the Yun Clan. 2694 Embarrassment of the Yun Clan. Immediately moved to suppress Ling Han without wasting words. As long as Yun Aokong did not unleash any powerful attacks, Ling Han would be able to handle him with his indestructible Celestial King physique. At most, he would only sustain some minor injuries. However, when Yun Aokong launched a powerful attack, Ling Han knew that he was outmatched, and would break into a run at the first instant. Ling Han had set his sights on Yun Aokong, and would charge to the Yun clan to call out a challenge frequently. At times, the interval would be quite long as he would take over a dozen days before he paid another visit. That was because his injuries were slightly heavier than usual. At other times, he would charge back after just a few hours. That was because Yun Aokong had taken too much time to release a powerful attack, so Ling Han managed to escape a long time ago. Fighting to and fro like this, half a year's time passed in the blink of an eye. Though Ling Han had not been able to penetrate the defenses of the Yun clan had also not managed to apprehend him. Furthermore, because of Ling Han, the members of the Yun clan did not dare to take a single step out their doors at all, fearing that he would suddenly intercept them and kill them. A dignified Heavenly Venerable tier force was actually forced to become cowards in their own clan? This made every single member of the Yun clan righteously furious, but who asked that Ling Han was really too freakish? His speed was not much lower than that of Yun Aokong himself, and even Yun Aokong could not do anything against him. Chasing Ling Han off was an easy task, but to suppress and capture Ling Han, that was just being delusional. It was not that Yun Aokong had not pursued Ling Han before, but as long as he did not launch any great attacks, he would not be able to do anything to Ling Han. But if he did release a great attack, he would need time to prepare for it. This little bit of time was enough time for Ling Han to escape. A Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate had made a move, yet was still unable to take down an 8th Heaven Celestial King? When the news spread out, everyone was stunned. When Ling Han had exchanged blows with Yufeng previously, he had still been unable to withstand a single blow. Though the fury of an ordinary man had still caused Yufeng to bleed, the gap between them could not be any more obvious. Yet now? A whole half-year's time passed, and Ling Han was seen constantly provoking the Yun clan, but there was no sign of the Yun clan taking him down. To say that Yun Aokong had been going easy on Ling Han, there was probably no one that would believe something so ridiculous, was there? This was too terrifying. He had just advanced by one cultivation level, and his battle prowess had multiplied many times over. However, they had overlooked the role played by the divine demon sword. If Ling Han did not possess this heavenly Venerate tool, he could only flee immediately when he encountered Yun Aokong. He would not be qualified to oppose him at all. But even so, Ling Han was indeed very amazing, forcing a Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate to the point that the latter could only stay on the defense in his clan. What other celestial king could actually do the same? However, Ling Han was not the slightest bit satisfied. He kept challenging Yun Aokong, as if he was playing with fire. His motive was to make use of the latter to help him break through to the ninth heaven, but half a year had already passed, and he still did not have any improvement. He could not see any hope of breaking through at all. This made him slightly depressed, and agitated as well. Again. As usual, Ling Han went to the Yun clan to call out a challenge, and Yun Aokong also accepted helplessly. You are trying to use me to help you break through to the ninth heaven, right? After fighting for so long, Yun Aokong naturally discovered Ling Han's motives as well. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to have challenged him over and over again like this. A cold light flashed in his eyes. A celestial king actually dared to use him as a grindstone to polish himself. Just how arrogant was he? And just how far was he looking down on him to do such a thing? Ling Han broke into a grin. You found out? There is no way you can succeed. Yun Aokong sneered. 9 nines return to 1, the pinnacle number of this world. Though I admit that you are indeed freakish, the threshold of the ninth heaven requires slow polishing and grounding. Spending over 1 billion to 10 billion years would be considered quick, and even an epoch would not be considered too long either. Furthermore, the higher one's natural talent, the more time would be needed to break through this barrier. You will not be able to last until then at all. My cultivation level is close to stabilizing completely. Once it's done, my battle prowess will surge many times over, and killing you then will be as easy as slaughtering a chicken. Chapter 2695, 2695 A Real Battle. 2695 A Real Battle. He put some distance between himself and Ling Han, spread out both his hands to form a bow, and wang, a golden arrow was immediately formed. Even Yun Aokong wasn't able to use this kind of powerful attack several times consecutively, as it involved the unique power of heaven and earth. He could only extract it to temper himself, but could not directly use it against the enemy. However, even if there was only a trace of it, just a little bit, this was a power that superseded the regulations. It would crush and destroy everything. Anyone whose strength was below a heavenly Venerate's wouldn't be able to block it. Ling Han's hair stood on ends immediately. His first reaction was to run away, but the urge to escape was forcefully suppressed by him. If he wanted to break through, he had to force himself into complete desperation, and then be reborn from the ashes, soaring into the sky. Come! He channeled the 9 transformations divine scroll and increased his power infinitely. Not running? Yun Aokong was stunned at first, and then overjoyed. This was a heavenly Venerate technique he was using, and even the Pseudo-Heavenly Venerate would not dare to confront it, but Ling Han, an 8th heaven celestial king, intended to take it head-on. This was truly bringing about his own destruction. However, this suited him. This time, really go meet your doom. Shio, Yun Aokong loosened his hand and shot the golden arrow. Too fast. The arrow directly crushed the space with 2, leaving a ripple of regulations behind it, and appeared in front of Ling Han in a flash. Break! Ling Han threw his fist, and 9-colored thunder was wrapped around his fist. With this punch, he channeled 2 heavenly Venerate techniques simultaneously, causing the flesh and blood of his entire arm to burst at the same time. Compared to when he had been at the 7th heaven, his physique had not improved, but as his cultivation level became higher, of course his battle prowess also became stronger, but this made the backlash become stronger as well, causing greater damage to his body. Pung! This punch hit the golden arrow, and endless brilliance flashed. At this moment, heaven and earth became pale due to it. Countless stars were shaken down, as if it were raining. Did Ling Han block the golden arrow? No. Even the combination of 2 heavenly Venerate techniques wasn't able to do it, and Ling Han's entire arm was currently only left with the skeleton, which instantly turned into countless pieces of broken bones, dispersing violently in all directions, while only part of the energy of the golden arrow was consumed, and it continued to shoot towards Ling Han. Ling Han let out a loud roar, circulating the indestructible heaven scroll to the extreme, and golden seals began appearing on his body one after another. Chapter 2696, 2696 Ninth Heaven. 2696 Ninth Heaven. Pung! The golden arrow landed on Ling Han, and suddenly the golden pattern dimmed immediately, their golden light disappearing in an instant. The defense formed by the indestructible heaven scroll had already been pierced through. The golden arrow sank into Ling Han's body, but there was half that was still exposed, and its momentum was finally expended completely. Pa! The golden arrow trembled, instantly turning into bits of light. This was not because its energy had been exhausted, but rather because it had hit its target, and the martial intent contained within was beginning to unleash its might. Ling Han felt his mind shake and almost explode. This impact was too terrifying. It was like a heavenly Venerate had barged into his mind, and was attacking wildly within his mind. If it were not because Ling Han had experienced too many spiritual attacks in the Celestial King graveyard previously, this strike would have probably caused him to lose consciousness. Even so, it was still a hard time for him. You actually survived. Yun Aokong was surprised. Ling Han had taken such a powerful attack head-on from him, yet he actually survived, and only sustained heavy injury. This brat's defense was beyond his expectations. However, since things had reached this point, Ling Han was definitely already spent. Complete elimination, he definitely could not leave this future trouble alive. Kill. Yun Aokong descended from the skies. He was going to take this chance when Ling Han was at his utmost weakest to take the life of this young prodigy. Ling Han drummed up his remaining energy. Pung! Exerting power through his feet, he began to run madly, dashing forwards for the sake of his own life. His motive had already been attained. He had already pushed himself to the limits, and at present, all the blood vessels inside his body were still popping continuously. Death seemed to be close at hand, causing his nerves to be stretched tightly. He could feel it, breakthrough was already not too far away. As long as he digested his gains from this battle, he would definitely be able to advance to the pinnacle of the celestial path. Thus, what was the point in continuing the battle now? He escaped, and began to run for his life. Didn't you say you wouldn't be running? Yun Aokong transmitted this message via divine sense, trying to provoke Ling Han into continuing the battle as he continued to pursue him from behind. How could Ling Han possibly fall for it? He, too, communicated through divine sense. Yun Aokong, just wait. When I next appear, it will be your turn to flee. He said these words with surging pride, and these words were filled with absolute confidence. If he became a 9th heaven, he would definitely be able to match a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. If so, that is even more reason that I cannot leave you alive. Yun Aokong declared coldly, a cold light flashing in his eyes. This time, no matter what corner of the world he had to chase him to, he was determined to kill Ling Han. Ling Han did not answer. He had already said all that he had to say. Next, it would be him coming back to kill all in his way after he had advanced into the 9th heaven. One fled, while the other pursued, and both of them were going all out. 10 days, 1 month, half a year. Time passed continuously. Yun Aokong continued to pursue Ling Han, and a fierce battle broke out. However, Ling Han also drew the divine demon's sword in response, and held no fear of the other party at all. Yet this time, it was Yun Aokong that did not dare to use a powerful attack again, because once he used a powerful attack, it would give Ling Han a chance to escape. Thus, the two of them were embroiled in a fierce, drawn-out battle. One was determined to flee, while the other was determined to detain the former. Ling Han was not running in a straight path, but rather running circles around the Yun clan. However, after circling around for a year, he suddenly crashed into fog. This was very strange. Before this, he had not seen any kind of fog gather here at all. Little Han, follow Grandpa Dog's instructions. The large black dog's voice rang out inside Little Han's mind. Though the large black dog was very despicable, Ling Han had incomparable trust in him. When he heard him, he immediately walked according to the large black dog's instructions. Every 7 steps, advance, and turn after every 3 steps. It was extremely complex. Xiao. Yun Aokong also barged in. However, he immediately lost track of Ling Han. Nothing but an illusory formation, you think you can stop me like this? He sneered, and immediately waved his hands, unleashing the might of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, wanting to sweep aside all the fog in a single move. He was a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, and had boundless might. With his overwhelming power, any kind of formation would be destroyed. However, though the fog rippled like the waves of a sea with this attack, it did not disperse. Yun Aokong finally showed a hint of seriousness. On the other side, Ling Han soon walked out of the fog by following the large black dog's instructions, and soon saw the large black dog and Wally standing in front of him. Let's go. This formation would not be able to hold a pseudo-heavenly Venerate down for long, the large black dog called out, looking extremely anxious. Ling Han nodded, and they left immediately. As expected, a loud boom was heard just a while later. A frightening wave of force surged out. Yun Aokong already escaped, but he had also lost track of Ling Han. He couldn't help but roar furiously, his voice rumbling out like thunder, turning into a boundless ocean of flames. This was his fury taking solid form. Brat, how about it? Don't you still need Grandpa Dog to save you? The large black dog grinned proudly. Ling Han smiled, and said, it was Wally who set up the formation, right? Wally nodded. He was the most honest. The large black dog humphed. That was also because Grandpa Dog asked him to find a formation, and Grandpa Dog was the one who personally set it up. Otherwise, you would still be hunted by now, brat. What idle time would you have to argue with Grandpa Dog now? Ling Han laughed loudly. He coughed up a great many bits of his internal organs with each laugh, yet he was completely unconcerned. Then, thank you. Of course. You are under Grandpa Dog's protection. The large black dog claimed all the credit without any reservations. He paused, and then asked Ling Han, brat, you're not going to die, right? I'm not going to die, but I need a very long time to recover. Ling Han nodded. However, when I recover, it will be the day that the Yun clan have to bow their heads. Brat, are you certain you can break through to the 9th heaven? The large black dog was also very pleased. They sought out a place to heal their injuries. Yun Aokong would definitely not give up, and would look everywhere for Ling Han to get rid of a future problem like him. Thus, they ran very far, and the farther they went, the higher the difficulty level for Yun Aokong to find them would naturally be. A month later, they finally stopped, and entered into the depths of an ocean. Ling Han began to heal his injuries. He recovered very slowly. This time, it was injuries that had been inflicted from powerful attacks of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Furthermore, he had also missed the first instance to recover, causing his injuries to worsen considerably. Moreover, if it were not for the fact that he had been exposed to void particle energy a long time ago, and had developed a certain level of related understanding and resistance, he would probably have been killed with a single arrow. Ling Han slowly removed the foreign martial intent from within his body. This was a great test, but at the same time, it was also an opportunity, allowing him to feel the power of a heavenly Venerate from an endlessly close distance. Time passed by quietly. 10 years, 100, 1000. In the blink of an eye, 210,000 years had passed. Ling Han had finally removed the foreign martial intent bit by bit. With a battle cry, he surged from the seabed right into the skies, and his aura completely unfurled. Instantly, winds and clouds raged, and thunder boomed loudly. The heavenly tribulation was coming. A ninth heaven great tribulation. Ling Han laughed. So what if it was a ninth heaven tribulation? He was completely unafraid. Come at me. Clang. The tribulation descended, and began to strike madly and explosively at him. Unfortunately, the power of a heavenly tribulation was limited. It was only slightly stronger than the eighth heaven tribulation that Ling Han had previously undergone. It was already no longer enough to threaten Ling Han. The heavenly tribulation boomed wildly, and countless bursts of lightning exploded on Ling Han's body, yet they were ultimately unable to penetrate the defense of his body. A day later, the heavenly tribulation withdrew helplessly. The dark clouds that filled the skies dispersed. 9 ribbons of iridescent light flashed around Ling Han, signifying that he had finally set foot on the pinnacle of the celestial path. Ling Han did not charge back to the Yun clan at the first opportunity. He had only just broken through to the ninth heaven, but there had not been much of a boost to his battle prowess. That was because the upper limits on his body art had just been lifted, but he had not begun to improve it yet. He descended back to the bottom of the sea, and extracted void particle energy to temper his body. Chapter 2697, 2697 The Return of the King. 2697 The Return of the King. This was yet another long process. Heavenly Venerable tier characters appeared in Ling Han's mind, which didn't mean anything to him, but could increase the efficiency of his stimulation of void particle energy. Even so, his progress could be seen as slow. After 30,000 years, Ling Han once again ended his seclusion and opened his eyes, and 2 beams of cold light illuminated heaven and earth, as if they could penetrate the whole flaming frost realm. Then, his eyes returned to normal, leaving behind only warm radiance, and his whole body's aura was completely suppressed, making him appear like an ordinary person. Returning to one's true self, the great accomplishment of cultivation level. Ling Han laughed loudly, stood up, and casually raised his arms. Boom, his devastating aura surged like a great river. Little Han, you are finally out. The large black dog jumped out. Grandpa Dog has been waiting until all the flowers have withered, and been sitting until his buttocks almost got calluses. Ling Han simply chuckled. Did the large black dog think that Ling Han wouldn't know because he was in seclusion? This damn dog was so flamboyant that it was impossible that he would stay still. He had to be wandering around. It just so happened that he hadn't gone out at this point in time. Vitality Index 14,574. Wally's eyes released a beam of green light as he was scanning Ling Han. Hiss, brat, your current strength is nearly as good as that of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, the large black dog said excitedly. This was amazing indeed, being a ninth heaven celestial king, and yet possessing the battle prowess of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. If Ling Han was to become a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, then wouldn't he be able to kill even a first-tier heavenly Venerate? However, Ling Han knew that he wasn't that powerful himself. The reason was that despite seemingly being in the early stage of the ninth heaven, he had already reached the level of pseudo-heavenly Venerate in terms of body art, and this wouldn't change even after he truly became a pseudo-heavenly Venerate. Therefore, what he could improve next was simply the power of regulations, and naturally the degree of improvement would be limited. Naturally, as his body was being tempered by void particle energy, his strength would also let him far exceed an overwhelming majority of pseudo-heavenly Venerates. Fortunately, at least I can beat the crap out of a certain someone. Ling Han laughed. In terms of body art, he was only at the early stage of the pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, but because of void particle energy, his vitality index could be compared with that of a late-stage pseudo-heavenly venerable tier, which was naturally enough for him to suppress Yun Aokong. "That's great, Grandpa Dog can't wait," the large black dog also shouted with excitement. Things such as looting clans were his favorite activity. They left the ocean and headed back towards the Yun clan for battle. More than 200,000 years had passed, and the Yun clan had long since returned to normal. At the beginning, they had been really worried that Ling Han would make a comeback, but after years of being cautious, Ling Han had never been seen to appear, so they had gradually let down their guard. Ling Han ought to be already dead. This was only normal. Wasn't it normal to die from serious injuries after being hit by a pseudo-heavenly venerate's powerful attack? Some Yun clan members had inquired Yun Aokong regarding the matter, and after careful consideration, Yun Aokong had also affirmed the conclusion that Ling Han ought to be already dead. At that time, Ling Han was already suffering from serious injuries, and in addition to being hunted down by Yun Aokong, his injuries would continue to worsen, and the probability of dying would have been very high. Initially, Yun Aokong hadn't dared to make such a conclusion, but after tens of thousands of years, there hadn't been any news regarding Ling Han, and thus even he had become certain that Ling Han had to be dead. Yun Aokong felt it was quite unfortunate. Since Ling Han's physique was so strong, he had to have cultivated a certain heavenly venerate technique, which had now disappeared together with Ling Han's death. This made him feel that it was a pity. In the past, having been fiercely suppressed by Ling Han had made the Yun clan completely lose face. Therefore, although Ling Han's body had not been found yet, having Yun Aokong's personal affirmation that Ling Han had to be dead, they began to release the news that Ling Han had been killed by the pseudo-heavenly venerate of their clan in order to restore the reputation of the Yun clan. Just a mere 8th heaven celestial king, how could he possibly shake up the Yun clan? As soon as a pseudo-heavenly venerate makes a move, such a minor character will only be granted death. This is the consequence of angering the Yun clan. They bragged to their heart's content, completely forgetting the past when they had been blocked by Ling Han at their doorstep, and even the pseudo-heavenly venerate had been unable to do anything about it. However, history ultimately lay in the hands of the victors, and since Ling Han did not jump out to refute, many people gradually accepted the fact that Ling Han was dead. The current Yun clan was peaceful, a show of happiness and prosperity. As Ling Han had caused such a ruckus in the beginning, with the person himself being so legendary, it reached the point where some people would purposely come here to pay their respects and offer condolences. The Yun clan could not prohibit it at all, and as time passed, the place became a small town where many cultivators would come daily to commemorate the last battle of the supreme freak of his generation, Ling Han, who had been defeated at this place. When the trio including Ling Han had arrived, they were also taken aback by the sudden emergence of this small town located below the mountain, and became a little confused. What was going on? "Let's check it out," Ling Han said. They changed their appearance slightly. Now that Ling Han had returned to his true self, there was actually no need for him to conceal himself. If it wasn't someone familiar looking, it would be impossible to connect him with his previous self. As for the large black dog, he transformed into a human form, a mighty man who was 7 feet tall, appearing quite formidable. It was just that his eyes were extremely vulgar. It was the essence of his character which could not be changed. Wally didn't have to change anything, as his face had never been revealed before. The 3 people entered the town, and found that it was really lively, with restaurants, gambling houses, and even brothels, and people would come and go like a stream. Come and see, this is a stone stained with Lord Ling Han's blood," someone shouted at the side of the road. He had set up a stall filled with many stones, which were indeed stained with red blood. This call immediately attracted the attention of many people on the road, and they all went to surround him one by one. "Is it genuine?" someone inquired. There were too many people selling using the gimmick of Ling Han's relics, and it turned out that most of them were fake. "Of course it's genuine. Haven't you sensed the powerful pressure emanating from the blood on the stone?" the man who had set up the stall immediately said proudly. Although Lord Ling Han has fallen, he died at the hands of a pseudo-heavenly venerate after all, and thus has absolutely lived up to his reputation of being freakish. Just imagine, if you can inherit a trace of his cultivation from Lord Ling Han's ancient blood, you might be able to become the second Lord Ling Han in the future. Indeed, this statement wasn't false. A celestial king's blood contained the celestial king's martial intent, and by deduction, one could even probe into the secret of the celestial king's cultivation. A question remained. Was the blood on this stone really Ling Han's? The onlookers were excited by the person who had set up the stall. To become the second Ling Han, this was such an amazing temptation. How much? One by one, many were asking. 1,000,000 star stones, said the person who had set up the stall. Everyone was hesitant. 1,000,000 star stones wasn't a small figure. Most of them were just minor characters of the severing mundane tier. Seriously, it wasn't easy to fork out 1,000,000 star stones. At this moment, an abrupt voice suddenly interrupted. What, Lord Ling Han? He was just a piece of trash. Everyone became extremely annoyed. Those who would come here were people who had heard of Ling Han's legend, and regarded him as their idol. Now that someone actually belittled their idol, it naturally made them very angry. They all turned their heads to look, only to see that it was a young man dressed in fine clothes. One could tell he had come from a powerful force or family with a single glance. No matter what, that kind of arrogance couldn't be concealed. Who are you? How dare you slander Lord Ling Han? Someone said angrily. The young man in fine clothes gave a cold look, and he suddenly stretched out his hand to press against that man. Insolence, you dare to insult me, you must be tired of living. Chapter 2698, 2698 Your grandpa is the one. 2698 Your grandpa is the one. Heavenly Brilliance tier. As soon as the young man in fine clothes made a move, everyone was shocked. Heavenly Brilliance tier. The corresponding level of martial arts in the celestial realm would be the Ascending Origin tier. This was indeed extremely strong, completely crushing the weaklings here. With just one move, the person who had spoken was seized by the young man in fine clothes. He gripped the other party's neck, and said lightly, I didn't hear clearly what you said earlier. Can you repeat? The man showed hesitation, but in the end he didn't dare to attempt being valiant, and said, It's my fault for being blind as a bat and offending young master, please forgive me. This was a world of cultivators, where those with strength would be respected. Had he dared to attempt being valiant, then he would have died in vain if he had been killed. The young man in fine clothes laughed out loud, raised his hand, and threw the man. He took a step, and several Ling Han bloodstones, on the ground shattered to pieces, which also proved that the stones were fake. Otherwise, had they truly been stained with the blood of a celestial king, they wouldn't have been so easily destroyed by a person of the Ascending Origin tier. So what of Ling Han? If I had been born 200,000 years earlier, would have killed him with a single sweat of my hand, he said arrogantly. Everyone was angry, but didn't dare not speak out. They thought to themselves that Ling Han was merely a seventh heaven celestial king at that time, but he killed more than 10 celestial kings at the peak of ninth heaven in one battle, fought against a pseudo-heavenly Venerate for half a year, and blocked the Yun clan so much so that no one dared to step out their doors. How domineering and powerful was this? What was a mere Heavenly Brilliance tier like this guy worth? If Lord Ling Han had not fallen, would you have dared to slander him like this? Remember, my name is Situ Tai-sun, said the young man in fine clothes. The future of the world will belong to me. One day, I will trample all the prodigies under my feet. People like Ji Wuming, heaven-born, and Du Shi can only look up to me. Everyone was speechless. This was too shameless indeed, his conceit practically soared to the skies. The large black dog couldn't bear it any longer, and said, You snob, have you devoured the courage of an immortal dragon to actually dare to boast so shamelessly? Situ Tai-sun looked at the large black dog with an angry expression. What kind of dog dares to act presumptuously in front of me? The large black dog was furious. He hated people mentioning the word dog in front of him as it was tantamount to cursing him face to face. He gave a howl, waved his paw, and swatted towards Situ Taisun. "You're courting death." Situ Taisun sneered and raised his palm to fight back. He was of the heavenly brilliance tier, and the only person stronger than him in heaven and earth would be a celestial king. However, even in the flaming frost realm, a celestial king wasn't just anybody, and would not be so easily encountered. Pung! With one blow, Situ Taisun was immediately sent flying. Given his strength, he was certainly no match for the large black dog. In fact, the large black dog didn't even need to make a move. He could crush him into a puddle of blood with just a snort. However, the large black dog didn't want to reveal his identity for the time being, so Situ Taisun was flipped upside down with a slap, and his head was planted in the ground, so deep that half his body was embedded in it. Even so, there was a buzz of gasps all around. That person was someone at the heavenly brilliance tier, after all, and he was knocked over with a slap. Could it be that you are a celestial king? Everyone looked at the large black dog with admiration. Though Ling Han could see celestial kings all around him after he had arrived at the martial academy, so many that he was almost bored by it. In fact, the number of celestial kings was still low even in the flaming frost realm. It was just that place where Ling Han had stayed happened to be full of celestial kings, which gave the feeling that the number of celestial kings was exceptionally high. For the vast majority of people, the severing mundane tier was already unattainable, while an immortal palace tier could be regarded as a peerless elite, and an ascending origin tier would be an overlord of a region, capable of starting a sect and establishing a faction. How powerful was a celestial king tier? These were just minor characters of the severing mundane tier and dividing soul tier. Naturally, to see a celestial king with their own eyes was extremely exciting, so much that they were about to cry. "My lord, you have caused trouble." A person approached from the street and said, "A few days ago, I saw with my own eyes a young master of the Yun clan accompanying this person, so the identity of this person must be extraordinary. My lord, you had best leave quickly." Hearing this, the people around inhaled sharply, showing an expression of great reverence. They didn't know Situ Taisun, but they knew what the Yun clan symbolized. The clan was right on top of them, right? Who of those that came to the clan's territory would not know the power of the Yun clan? To have a relationship with the Yun clan was incredible. Not to mention Situ Taisun's own background, as long as the Yun clan was willing to stand up for him, what celestial king could bear up to such fury? To speak of nothing else, Ling Han was already very powerful and freakish, right? Hadn't he still died here? The large black dog couldn't help being amused. He was not afraid of the Yun clan now, of course, and said smilingly, "So what about the Yun clan? As long as they dare to come, Grandpa, I will destroy them with one hand." The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. Situ Taisun had been bragging before, but now the large black dog was even more able to talk nonsense. It was a pity that none of them dared to refute. "Why, you still don't believe it?" the large black dog barked. "I will sit here for the whole day today, and wait for the Yun clan to come." Sure enough, he sat down on the side, but one paw could not help but habitually stick up, trying to scratch his neck, and it was very hard to hold back the urge. Everyone didn't dare to persuade him anymore. This was a celestial king, so who would dare to talk too much in front of him? After a while, sure enough, someone from the Yun clan came. The Yun clan was located in the clouds, and they naturally descended from the sky. There were 2 people in total, both of whom were extremely handsome young men. When they saw Situ Taisun planted in the ground, they showed anger. "Brother Tai Long, my brother had an accident in the territory of our Yun clan. I will definitely give you an explanation for this," said a young man who was dressed in green. The other person, who was dressed in black, nodded. "Of course, I believe Brother Aokong." That young man in green clothes was Yun Aokong. Not only were there many warriors who came to pay their respects to the sacred site of Ling Han's battle, there were also many disciples from the martial academy who were interested in it. They were all people who had seen how freakish Ling Han could be with their own eyes, and were very interested in the secret of Ling Han's power. When Ling Han was still alive, of course they didn't dare to do anything, but now that Ling Han was dead, they gained some ideas. Maybe they could find where Ling Han was buried and obtain everything that had once belonged to him. Therefore, Yun Aokong returned. The person dressed in black was named Pseudo-Heavenly, and he was also a disciple of the Martial Academy. He was also a descendant of the Pseudo clan. The Pseudo clan was a heavenly venerable tier noble clan, with an elder of their clan that was a 4th tier heavenly Venerate, and that background was even stronger than the Yun clans. What does the culprit look like? Yun Aokong asked the surrounding people. Everyone exchanged looks, a strange feeling rising up in their heart. It was weird to ask what the culprit looked like when the culprit was right there. Some of them stretched out their fingers, and pointed at the large black dog. He looks similar. Yun Aokong didn't even think that the large black dog was the culprit, and thought that everyone was using the large black dog for comparison. Your grandpa is the one, the large black dog declared proudly. He was actually someone who would bully the weak but tremble before the strong, so he was naturally completely unconcerned about Yun Aokong. Yun Aokong was stunned for a moment, and then burst into anger. You're so arrogant, you beat someone, yet didn't run away, and you're still waiting here? Just how far are you looking down on the Yun clan? Do you think you are Ling Han? Yun Aokong was furious. Now that Ling Han had caused such trouble in their clan, any average celestial king dared to come to their Yun clan and flaunt their arrogance? Chapter 2699, 2699 An Impostor. 2699 An Impostor. Yun Aokong looked at the large black dog, and suddenly felt apprehensive. From his point of view, the person in front of him didn't have any strong aura circulating about him, but was just so perverse that he felt a chill down his spine. However, being able to defeat Pseudo-Heavenly, he would have to be a celestial king, right? Both of them were celestial kings, but he wasn't able to see through the depth of his opponent's strength. Could it be that the other party's cultivation level was actually higher than his own? What is your name? He decided to first test the large black dog's strength. I'm the Black King, said the large black dog loftily. Black King? Yun Aokong murmured under his breath, and started a frantic search in his mind, wondering whether he had previously heard of or seen someone with this name. After a round of searching, there was indeed someone named Black King in his memory, but none could match with this perverse man in front of him. Why aren't you prostrating and kneeling down in my presence? The large black dog demanded boldly. Yun Aokong felt apprehensive, but it was naturally impossible for him to be afraid of his opponent in his own territory. Did you think that every person was Ling Han? Sir, you are too arrogant. Yun Aokong said menacingly, this person was ignorant indeed. Didn't he know how powerful the Yun clan was? When I clean out your clan's treasure chamber, you will know how arrogant I am, the large black dog shouted, his eyes gleaming with greed in addition to the perverseness in his gaze. Yun Aokong was furious. This person actually had the guts to think of attacking their Yun clan treasure chamber? Pseudo-Heavenly couldn't help laughing, and said, Brother Aokong, it seems that your noble clan needs to start killing people, otherwise everyone will think that it's easy to bully the Yun clan. Yun Aokong nodded. Did most people think that the Yun clan had become weak because of the incident caused by Ling Han? Now any random celestial king would dare to walk all over him. This was really too insolent. Sir, allow me to test your strength. Yun Aokong took a step, and boom, his aura exploded. The large black dog obviously could suppress Yun Aokong with just one hand, but if he didn't make use of someone who could be ordered around, then would he still be him? Little Han, go on my behalf, he yelled at Ling Han. Pa, Ling Han kicked towards the large black dog, causing the large black dog to dash off hurriedly. Huh, you? Yun Aokong looked at Ling Han with a strange expression. This person's appearance was so familiar, but he couldn't recall whom he resembled at the moment. Hey, he looks a bit like the person who is already dead, Pseudo-Heavenly said. Yun Aokong suddenly realized that this person did look a little like Ling Han, but obviously he didn't impersonate him very well, because Ling Han had a domineering aura, and even the sun couldn't suppress his splendor. However, the person in front of him had a subtle aura, and had no distinctive features. He was standing there like an ordinary person. Since Ling Han had been born and set the record for heaven-defying battle merits, he had also won the favor of countless young people, with all eagerness to pursue him and follow suit, so it wasn't surprising to see a person with appearance and temperament similar to Ling Han's. It was just that this person in front of him wasn't a good enough impersonation. Humph. I hated that person the most, and yet you insist on making yourself look like him. This is courting death. Yun Aokong said coldly. He once again raised his hand towards Ling Han to grab him. Pa! Ling Han waved his hand, and directed a slap at Yun Aokong from a distance. With his strength, was there any possibility for Yun Aokong to resist? Raising a hand, his palm landed, and the man collapsed. When Yun Aokong fell, a strange thought crossed his mind. Why had he collapsed like this again? There was a feeling of déjà vu about this. Situ Tai Long was shocked his strength was almost on the same level as Yun Aokong's, but Yun Aokong wasn't enough to be Ling Han's match for even one exchange, so far from it in fact that Yun Aokong fell with just a single strike launched from a distance. This was absolutely crushing strength. Who the hell are you? Being so powerful, and yet having to imitate someone, it was truly such a shame. Ling Han said evenly. Situ Tai Long scoffed. Ling Han was already dead. It couldn't be that the dignified Yun clan would release fake news. Sir, you are also an overlord yourself, so why impersonate a dead person? He asked. This was him stalling for time as he just wasn't Ling Han's match, and could only wait for the Yun clan to send reinforcements. Ling Han chuckled, and looked at the large black dog. Why doesn't anyone believe me when I tell the truth? That's because you've been telling too many lies. The large black dog took the opportunity to speak in reprimand. Little Han, when one does bad things, heavens are watching, and there will be retribution, so you have to be respectful and courteous to Grandpa Dog, who is your great benefactor. Situ Tai Long was trembling with anger. His younger brother was planted into the street like a tree, while his companion was knocked out by a single blow, and yet these two people were still teasing each other in front of him. This was too arrogant. As for the Yun clan, why hadn't anyone come? Shio. At this moment, 5 people descended from the sky, all showing off their powerful aura. This was the territory of the Yun clan, and they were the celestial kings of the Yun clan, so naturally there would be no need to conceal anything. These 5 people were all 8th heaven celestial kings, and moving together, they would just be able to take on a 9th heaven celestial king. Who's the madman to have the impertinence to come to my Yun clan and cause trouble? A celestial king shouted, his sweeping gaze landing on Ling Han and the large black dog. His gaze focused upon Ling Han, and he just felt that this young man seemed very familiar. I'm here to collect a debt, Ling Han said lightly. Collecting a debt? Why was it so popular nowadays to come to Yun clan to collect debts? It was all because Ling Han had set a terrible example. He really wanted to dig him out of the ground and flog his corpse for 10,000 years. Situ Tai Long folded his arms over his chest, and said coldly, he said his name was Ling Han. Ling Han? The 5 8th heaven celestial kings all sneered. Indeed, the person in front of them did resemble Ling Han, but the difference was also obvious. And the most important thing was that Ling Han was already dead. How could a dead person still be standing here? Who the hell are you, and why did you come to Yun clan to cause trouble? A celestial king asked. Who gave you orders to do so? If asked to believe that a celestial king would come to the Yun clan to cause trouble, none of them would believe it. How could there be so many audacious people in the world? Don't you feel ashamed of causing trouble under a dead person's name? Ling Han couldn't help but find it funny. When did he die? I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. Once I suppress all of you, Yun Haoyang should come out. Ling Han said with a smile as he stretched out his hand to grab a celestial king. How dare you? The 5 8th heaven celestial kings acted together simultaneously to fight off Ling Han. Ling Han stretched open his palm, it was as if the sky was collapsing. The 5 celestial kings countered it together, but they couldn't block the strike, and all of them collapsed. At the sight of this, the people around them couldn't help but gape. This was ridiculous. Those were actually 5 8th heaven celestial kings, but they were no match for Ling Han. A 9th heaven celestial king. Absolutely. They all gazed at Ling Han with admiration. He was one of the 9th heaven celestial kings, who stood at the highest peak of the celestial path. Who wouldn't admire him? Ling Han planted the 5 celestial kings upside down in the ground one by one. "Brat, you have such a bad taste," the large black dog said. Ling Han looked at Situ Tai Long and said, "What should I do with you?" Situ Tai Long also looked at Ling Han and extended a finger that was trembling violently. "Why, you really are Ling Han. You are not dead." Being so unbelievably strong, with appearance so similar to Ling Han's, and even behaving similarly, who else could he be if not Ling Han? The Yun clan had made a huge mistake. This bringer of calamity and freak wasn't dead at all. Chapter 2700, 2700 He is Ling Han. 2700 He is Ling Han. Moreover, there was also a difference in strength between weaker and stronger pseudo-heavenly venerates. When 10 celestial kings blocked one, then the one who was blocked would have been the weakest pseudo-heavenly venerate. Xiao. At this moment, someone in the sky shot out an arrow, so fast that it looked like a stream of light. So what if he's a pseudo-heavenly venerate, this the Yun clan? A majestic voice which made everyone's blood bubble and boil sounded. An elite made a move, albeit not Yun Yanghao, but a celestial king at the peak of the 9th heaven. When these words fell, everyone in the Yun clan felt motivated. Yes, they were the Yun clan, after all. Even if a pseudo-heavenly venerate attacked, they would be able to stop him by dispatching more 9th heaven celestial kings. Ling Han humphed, raised his other hand, and launched a strike towards the golden arrow. Pung! With the impact of a single punch, the golden arrow instantly shattered into countless flashes of light. If there wasn't a pseudo-heavenly venerate to take action, then who could stop Ling Han? His right hand exerted force, and boom, the white-colored hand pressed down abruptly. Such copious power was not something that the 13 9th heaven celestial kings could jointly fight against, and this instantly caused those celestial kings to collapse all over the ground. In this exchange of blows, 14 9th heaven celestial kings were completely defeated. However, due to the eruption of his full strength, Ling Han was unable to completely control his own aura, and boom, 9 ribbons of iridescent light appeared on his body. 9th heaven celestial king, everyone in the Yun clan said in a trembling voice, as if they were in mourning. If Ling Han had really been a pseudo-heavenly venerate, they wouldn't have been so shocked, but Ling Han's cultivation level was only the 9th heaven. This was really too terrifying. A 9th heaven celestial king had done what only a pseudo-heavenly venerate was capable of doing. How freakish was that? And how frightening. Ling Han. Someone finally said a name. Naturally it had to be the catastrophe that had brought shame to the Yun clan. This guy wasn't dead, and had even advanced to the 9th heaven. As they had feared, Ling Han at the cultivation level of the 8th heaven was just about able to battle against a pseudo-heavenly venerate, so when he had advanced to the 9th heaven, he would really possess the strength of a pseudo-heavenly venerate. "Why aren't you dead yet?" Ling Han laughed. "What you're asking is really too mediocre. If I am dead, then is the person standing here a ghost? Little Han, he's cursing you." On the sidelines, the large black dog added fuel to the fire. With a shake of his body, he transformed into a dog again. "Grandpa Dog in this form is still the most handsome," he said shamelessly. The people of Yun clan were on the verge of despair. Yun Haoyang had taken action, but he still couldn't kill a Ling Han at the 8th heaven. Now that Ling Han had advanced to the 9th heaven, would there be anyone in the Yun clan who could stop him? Their Grand Elder was still in the realm battlefield, and wasn't able to withdraw from it at all. "I really didn't expect that you would not only survive, but even go a step further. Yun Aokong's deep voice rang out. Xiao, he descended from the sky and landed with a single step, not showing any domineering behavior. Elder Hao. All the members of Yun clan immediately knelt on the ground, although there were those who were actually higher in seniority than Yun Aokong among them. The strong would be respected. They once again regained confidence as they had a real pseudo-heavenly Venerate in their own clan, and therefore would definitely not lose to Ling Han. Ling Han smiled lightly. Were you thinking that it was obvious that I was not as powerful as you, and yet I still fought with you for such a long time, so I had to be an idiot, no? I have to say, you are indeed freakish to have broken through to the 9th heaven by using me. Yun Aokong was deeply rueful. Which 9th heaven celestial king, heavenly Venerate, and pseudo-heavenly Venerate wouldn't spend countless years when overcoming this obstacle? This was the last and strongest obstruction of heaven and earth, and it required a lot of hard work to break through it. And Ling Han belonged to the most supreme freakish kind, and had successfully advanced with the help of a pseudo-heavenly Venerate, which made the latter feel inferior. Having said so much, do you want to fight or surrender? Ling Han shouted. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.